Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis, and joining me as he always does, it's... Wait, what's this? It's evolving. It's actually Anders, yes, standing in for Thorin, who's away on holiday. Anders, mate, I don't know where he is. I think he's gone off to some romantic retreat, probably with his favourite love interest himself.
An opium den somewhere? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But thanks so much for being the stand-in. I do appreciate it, and hope you're looking forward to, I don't know, giving your opinions about multiple things that are happening in Denmark right now.
Yes, I'm the perfect guest. It's been wonderful, and I'm happy to be here, Richard. I appreciate it. I'll do my best to beat Duncan for an hour or two.
Yes, walk into him now while I do these reads. Just imagine, outrageous things to say. Imagine precarious socio-political commentary, perhaps even rating what countries you think are the best. Just so Sam is sat there, hovering over the button at any given moment. Because, trust me, that's what he does in his meantime. A lot of people think Sam does this show stoned, relaxing. Oh, no, when Duncan's here, Sam's on high alert. He's the guy with the panic button. So just putting that out there. But anyway, first thing to do is obviously give a shout out to the sponsors that make the show possible. NordVPN, our VPN sponsor, very happy to have them on board. They've been on board for a long time now. It might be coming up to a year. Time flies when you have pandemic brain. But go to nordvpn.com/RLS and get yourself 70% or more off. Fantastic VPN product. And of course, our new sponsor. You can see it's on my head. SteelSeries. They make fantastic hardware. A Danish company. No less. They're a sponsor now. And if you want to get yourself 10%, a whopping 10% off, you simply go to the link that's in the Nightbot. You go to the link that's on the panel below. You type my name with no space, Richard Lewis, 10% off, and we are living the dream. So, look, probably lots to get into. Let's start with the big story, which, of course, is the never-ending Hunden Tour. Which is so insane to me that what's actually going on seems to be just this constant war of attrition between essentially Astralis on one level, which we'll talk about a little bit down the road. But, this coach that's been caught cheating, lying, banged to rights, now doing all he can to lash out at players at Heroic. One of which that isn't even at Heroic anymore and is getting completely fucked over. God bless Nico, the cartoon turtle. So, I mean, look, I haven't even really talked to you about this from afar. So I just want to get your broad perspective of everything that's been going on.
Well, Richard, no doubt you've been in some fucked up relationships in your life. And
undoubtedly, yeah.
If you're having an argument with your partner and he or she has some kind of, like a little grain of truth that they're holding on to, and you have something, but you just push the argument so far that now everyone is losing, like all at the same time. I feel like that happened in the first iteration of this argument. Like immediately it seemed like everyone was going to lose. Yeah. And it's almost made worse, I feel like, by the fact that some of this is likely to not be actually provable. Unless there's some really rare circumstances that I just can't think of. And I'm not even sure if that's like a favorable position to be in. I actually, this is just a broad internet opinion that I have. I sometimes feel like it's actually better if there's evidence against you and you can get punished and then you can move on. Because if there's no evidence against you, then the internet will just remember that you're likely a villain and forever. So,
Well, so we're already seeing that with Heroic to some regard, right? I mean, listen, even our regular co-host, no doubt when he does get back from holiday, we'll have to have this conversation as adults ourselves on the podcast, because I actually don't agree entirely with, for example, he did a tweet saying, Cadian's Heroic arc is over. Fuck this guy. He hasn't tweeted anything. And I'm like, I don't really see what Cadian can do in this instance.
Right.
He's being accused. People are going to accuse him of being the cheat because he's the in-game leader. Hunden hasn't presented any evidence that Cadian's done anything wrong. No. You've got one really poorly out of context chat log that apparently is from a bigger plot. And like I said, we'll talk about the evidence. Yeah, and then it's like, what's he gonna do? Hey lads, we didn't cheat. Like, I mean, everyone thinks they're guilty as fuck. Which, as I've said, it's just typical of the subreddit to play favorites like this, because I remember when iBuyPower were absolutely banged to rights, and 2015, they were so nailed on guilty. You only had to watch the game. Only someone who was educationally subnormal would watch that match and think those guys were trying to win it. And yet, for 6 months, I banged my head against that wall, had people DDoSing me, trying to hack my emails, threatening to kill me, threatening to attack my girlfriend, because they were innocent, Anders.
Yeah.
They were innocent. And all the testimony in the world, all the chat logs in the world, all the proof in the world didn't mean shit back then. But for Heroic, an unpopular European team, by contrast, of course they're guilty, mate.
Yeah, but you see, where you went wrong, Richard, is you went and found evidence and tried to present it in a rational fashion. It should have done is leaked little bits of random information along the way to news outlets, and then people would have been on your side immediately. I mean, whatever else Heroic have been putting out there in terms of statements, I actually do side with them on this, that it is slightly ridiculous to be attacked by someone who goes into like different media outlets and just gives their side of the story, and then you may have to go through a process of communicating through lawyers or ESIC or whatever it is. And obviously the players would, I can't just obviously communicate on their own without the consent of the org, or even through the, through some org representative or something like that. Why would you ever put your players in that position? Like, it's just, I think that battleground is in itself incredibly unfair. And I guess people just have no real experience or knowledge of how this works, but I would have been shocked if they would have just thrown. It's like every courtroom movie you've ever seen where they say, well, we're not going to put you on the witness stand, because it's like, why would anyone ever do that, so the whole thing is just messed up.
I mean, look, I saw, to give you an idea of just how fucking stupid the discourse has been on Reddit, right? There was a bunch of comments that I saw where somebody said, Cadian's not saying anything because his lawyer that he retains has told him not to. And everyone upvoted that and went, yes, Cadian, definitely. Point to me an esports player that's got enough money to retain individual legal fucking counsel, and I'll suck you off. That's part number one, right? Forget that for a second, though. They were then going, their response to why, when it was pointed out that was a ridiculous assertion, their response to it was, don't you wish Hunden had talked to his lawyer? What have Cajun and Hunden got in common?
Yeah, no,
it's absolutely insane just how far it's gone. And look, I'm not even saying, all common logic, by the way, like all logic in my brain, all common sense says to me that almost certainly players did know when their coach was up to it. I'd be amazed.
Yeah.
I would be amazed, but the difference is only Heroic are going to get exposed because they had the misfortune to have the coach that just happens to be the biggest rat cunt ever to have fucking graced CS. It's actually insane. You can't even call Smooya the Rat King anymore.
No, it's true, isn't it? I feel like it's so fucking outrageous. Listen, I have to say, because we actually skipped a whole part of the show. I realize Duncan's not here, but we skipped the petty grievances part, obviously.
Oh, have you got any petty grievances? We can get back to talking CS:GO in a minute, mate. I mean,
it's related to this because obviously when the whole thing was unfolding, I was in Ukraine doing the WePlay thing. And some journalist or other reached out to me and asked for my comments. And generally, when people do that, I try to be forthcoming. I sometimes don't engage in like the Twitter hot takes drama thing because it does bore me a little bit. But I don't mind if people write me and say, "What do you think about this?" So I basically said what you just said, which is I've always found it to be hard to imagine a world in which the players wouldn't have had at least an inkling. Like if I have a coach on my team that keeps coming up with incredible calls, even if I don't ask him in the middle of the game, I'm gonna want to review that game and know, because if he's not cheating, if he has a real reason to know, that's gold. That's like, I need to know that so that I can be just as smart in the future and make these amazing calls, right? So I just feel like it's unlikely that something didn't happen. But here's the problem. Here's my grievances. Apparently, you can't point this out without being Team Hunden anymore on Reddit. People accuse you of standing up for Hunden and saying that he's a great guy and that the players have got. It's just so insane. I can't believe that. Why have we lost that nuance? Why can't I say It seems to me just logically the players might have known. Maybe there's some awesome explanation that I haven't thought of. I'm even willing to accept that, but and still say that Hunden is a piece of shit. Like I can do both. It's no problem.
I mean, look, like the one narrative that's lazy and boring that I'm willing to go along with is this wages of sin narrative, that because Heroic kept a piece of shit on their books, there's some kind of karmic prevalence, that's occurred here. The universe is doing this to Heroic, and that shows there is some sort of benevolent sense to it all, which of course there isn't. But if we need to live vicariously through a video game to believe that, so we're a little less afraid when we go to sleep, that's fine. But the bottom line is, yeah, absolutely. This is what I've been talking about for a while, that these orgs that kept the cheats in the org, kept them in the fold, were willing to still work with them. It's very hard to sympathize when liars and cheats that you're willing to absolve turn around and lie and cheat and fuck you over. It's like, you talk about bad relationships. At the end of the day, if you get with somebody that's got a particular proclivity, a particular negative quality, and you go, but they'll never do that to me, and then help, they're doing it to me. How surprised can you really be?
Yeah, it's not how you can't even look at turn around and say, oh, we could have never known. Like like they don't even have that excuse to you. Actually, to do some cross promotion, I was listening to your interview with JW.
Yes.
And I think he brought up a bunch of good points. Actually, a couple of things that I really resonated with. First of all, the fact that Heroic retained Hunden and and had him as like no longer a coach, but as some just I don't know, rat in the organization in itself is already like you are digging your own grave at that point in time, aren't you? Like at least you're beginning to do that. And the other thing that this is like a feeling that I've been carrying around, which is this feeling of like, why are there so many people just hell-bent on fucking up this game that some of us are really trying like really hard to sort of build and have invested our whole lives into, and like everything is sort of riding on this. It's actually very frustrating to see people that just so carelessly are just throwing and not even for like, I can't even understand what the gain is at this point in time. I always if ever people come up to me, and maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but if someone comes to me and wants to rob a bank, I'm at least going to ask for how much we could potentially get away with. If you tell me it's going to be $1 million I'm not interested. That's not going to I'm out.
Yeah,
immediately.
That's not going to move the dial. Exactly.
Yeah. It's going to have to be like buy a country to escape kind of money at least before I even want this conversation to continue. I'm not sure what are they winning at this point. Like what's going on? It seems like
I think down. Listen, I know the answer to this, and it was nowhere was it more clear to me than sort of some of the attitudes from the North American players, and especially the ones lower down the food chain that were match fixing. I know from interviewing them. Remember, I've still got dozens and dozens of hours of recorded interviews with people incriminating all of these people, like because of the fucking FBI and ESIC taking an age. I can't write my blockbuster roller coaster report, and that's sad. But anyway, they all said the same thing. The prevailing sentiment was the game is dead, certainly in North America. Most of them, well, a lot of them were Canadian. And so there's even an argument if they're breaking the law at all in Canada, because they don't even have match fixing laws per se in sports. And so they were just like, let's just like a rental car, let's just rag the tits off it. Let's just fucking, let's just rag the tits off it. Let's just ride it everywhere, crunching the gears, fuck it up, and return it without a full tank of gas. Who gives a shit? That was their attitude. And so, I get it. I understand it psychologically speaking. But yeah, you're right. For people like me that are trying to fucking, pull the walls apart from crushing us all to death, it's just got to a point now where I've accepted I've wasted pretty much my entire adult life in trying to make esports anything special.
Funny, of course.
Yeah, you're like, just it was a waste of time. If I could go back in time and do anything, I would. But no, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
No.
And the other aspect, of course, is that CSGO is dead. It's a dead game walking. It's a dead scene walking. I don't even think the Major's going to save it, although optimistically, I always go, well, if the Major's amazing and we break viewership records, it might bounce back. I don't think there's any bouncing back from this. I think it's not just all the economic problems that we've got. It's not just the fact we don't have NA anymore. It's not just the fact that the game in China, which, by the way, I don't want China to be the savior of anything, like, let alone an esport that I love, where, it's going to be like, they're banning effeminate men from television at the moment. I don't, my career would be over, Anders. But
comes
the point
with other
is,
problems, yeah.
yeah. But the issue is, simply put, that it's the standard problem, and that is that there is a pyramid of greed. And the pyramid of greed is serve yourself at the expense of whoever's in the next rung down, and just get the fuck out. Just get the fuck out, go to Valorant, or fuck it, just retire. You won't have to work for a while. You can stave off adult life for a bit. You can live in your comfortable state of arrested development. Why not? Why not sign up with weird sponsors? Why not fix a game or two? And why not cheat to win prize money? And what you realize is, the more and more that becomes like just an acceptable train of thought, where even, as again we'll get into in a second, players will excuse the guilty, right, if they like them, and damn people who haven't been proved guilty publicly. It's a joke. And the fans, they're morons by and large, but they understand. They understand that no scene is sustainable when it exists like that.
That was going to be my comment, pretending to be Duncan. The fans are morons, but you beat me to it. Well, here's the... I don't know. I am obviously a little bit more optimistic than I have to be. That's the role that I play. But maybe another reason to be optimistic, if you really wanted to make the argument, could be that Counter-Strike is a game that's just survived for so long with an incredible amount of just borderline negligence or being ignored by Valve and sort of, making its way pretty much on its own without any kind of outside support, and actually even being shunned by all of the normal brands that don't want anything to do with the terrorism bomb thing. I still can't understand why we can't rename it Attacking and Defending. I feel like we're losing nothing by that. That's just a little thing to leave out there. But anyway, I feel like at this point, you'd have to hope that that core of the community and the game hasn't been completely stripped by the last, let's call it, like since, when did it start? Like 16, 17, something like 2016, 17, when a lot more mainstream influence started to get into Counter-Strike, and, that includes the teams and the tournament organizers and all the rest of it. You have to hope that they didn't get to sort of rob the scene of that much of its spirit, so that if things really go bad, and like you said, North America is looking super rough at the moment, no doubt about it. So if things have to take a huge downturn, that they don't completely crash and collapse, right? But I think you could come up with a good reason to say that Counter-Strike maybe has more of like a scaffolding inside of it than many other games do that are, I guess, in turn, their upside for them is they are supported by the developers, and that does make things look pretty solid as long as they're there, right? But maybe that's not quite the same thing. So I don't know. I am a little and I also feel like things also surely look way more grim because we're looking through the lens of online Counter-Strike, and all of this shit, right, is still just tied to it, right? It's the coaching and online where we can't see what people are doing, and all the rest of it, right? Like it's all just some sort of weird after effect from that whole thing. So I want to believe that when we get back to LAN, and at least things will start to turn the other direction. But obviously, there's a lot on the line right now, especially with what Valorant are doing and everything that they're pumping into that. So I'm not as certain as I was, 2 years ago, that this is just all going to be up and up and up, right? I think things are looking pretty rough.
Yeah, for sure. Now, back to Heroic and the evidence. Obviously, you'll have seen it by now. The evidence that was publicly presented, and look, I know, obviously, it's not just what we've seen in public, is this. Is that there was one chat log where Nico says everyone on our team knew it, and Hunden goes, yes, Maybe not the first time, but after everyone knew that. So we've seen 3 lines out of an out of context conversation. And people are going, oh my God, this is blockbuster stuff. You didn't even see what everyone knew what. Everyone knew what after the first time. Everyone knew what. You know, you're like, seriously, I can't even believe it. Like there was a TikTok meme, which I'm sorry, guys, I have to know these things. It's not, you know, I'm not interested in TikTok really, but I do have to know these things for my job. God help me. But there was a TikTok meme where it was something like people would say, do you support LGBTQ rights? And people would say, yes, of course. And they would record it side by side like you do in the TikTok mashups. But then the original people would take the second part and then replace it with, are you racist? And so what would happen is you had all these well-meaning people that wanted to show support for LGBTQ basically just being put up on the internet as self-avowed racists. So what happens there is if you leave out that first fucking line,
yeah,
Nico could be talking about anything. Now, obviously, I've got no reason to suspect that this is rigged in any way or faked in any way, because ESIC's going to go through it all with a fine-tooth comb. But the idea that that being presented to the public is enough for everyone to go, well, yes, that's it now, it's all over. And so that was mind-blowing to me, especially, like, again, we had a recording of people saying, yeah, let's fix that game. And people were going, yeah, I think that 4-pack guy didn't want to do it. There was something in his tone of voice that you people are fucking outrageous. You deserve to have nothing but rubble. It is mental that, you know, oh, but Reddit's not one person. Again, you don't even know what consensus is. So you had that. And then the other evidence was that Hunden said, Tezes came onto the server and boosted me into this position. And a guy who's definitely not Michał, the admin, definitely not, described in the Danish publication as a leading authority on demo review and the coach bug. Wonder who that is. Anyway, they said, yes, Tezes was on the server and could have boosted him, but just so you know, and TV2.dk, right, said this, but the HLTV translation left this line out. And then it's like, wait, don't you get some money from Astralis or some shit? Like, hang on, anyway, fuck that. Let rewind, right? But the HLTV translation left this bit out. And definitely not Michał, said, of course, you can get to that position without being boosted. So again, without us knowing what to look for in the server logs, nobody should have a fucking opinion about anything yet. Nobody should have an opinion about anything yet. But here we are, heroic or guilty, apparently.
I tried to run this a little bit through in my mind. Not that I'm an expert necessarily in the coaching bug either, but I have spent a lot of time looking at server logs and the way that data is structured in general in you know, GoTV demos and all the rest of it. And I can't imagine anything other than that sort of the inferred evidence, or whatever we might call it, you know, circumstantial evidence in this case, would be something like the fact like those two would have to be on the server alone before everyone else joined, or something like that, right? Which in itself that's not that compelling. Like that plus a log where someone says, you know, we all knew. It's like it's just not many data points, and they're really stretched like really far apart, you know. And I'm not even comfortable with that, because obviously here's the issue, right? People I think do this thing where they say, well, if Tez's statement wasn't that, then, you know, he'd have to come up with some sort of reason for it or something. Like he's essentially being asked potentially at least to prove a negative, right? What is he meant to say at this point in time if he was talking like he can't, like, I'm gonna let me go ahead and prove that I didn't, you know, participate in this cheat. Like, it's just, I don't even know. And even if there was no other way to do it, right? First of all, it's hard to know that, because you're assuming that we would have tested absolutely everything. Like, who knows how long that could take. But it's just like, again, like in a trial, you kind of want to you kind of want to set it up, don't you, so that you have the best thing you could have is like video footage or something, right? Like as soon as you get into this thing, it's like, well, there really aren't many other people in the area that could have been within range to kill this person, so we'll just arrest you, you know? Where it's like, well, yeah, but you know, how confident do you feel that there actually wasn't like it's just very weird to me. And the fact that there's another way to do it potentially without anyone else just kind of makes it a mess, doesn't it?
It does. Now, again, none of this is to say it's not true, right? Like,
sure,
and this is the aspect of the Hunden story that I'm interested in, because the Heroic, by their own admission, right, crafted an NDA. They admitted this, essentially, effectively. Hunden alleged that there was an NDA that basically said if you mention any cheating, if you talk about any bugs or any exploitation, or anything we've done, you can be fined like $100,000 or whatever it was in your fucked up krona, right?
Yeah.
And that was the rule. And so essentially what you've codified in a contractual document is if you tell the truth about the highly unethical, potentially illegal thing that we did, you will be subject to further penalty. Now, just a general rule about NDAs, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot be compelled to do something illegal or not complain about something illegal or hide something illegal or be complicit in something illegal, even something unethical. And in general, really broad NDAs don't necessarily always hold up. I can't tell you to just shut the fuck up about all the heinous stuff I did under penalty of fine because you worked for me for a bit. Think about it. And you see in America, especially, where they love an NDA. You take a shit in someone's house, you have to sign a fucking NDA out there. Some lawyer rubbing his hands, living the dream. You go to pull the toilet paper, NDA, it's there, right? So... But even in like big states like California and stuff like this, these broad NDAs that are fucking you over aren't being upheld by courts, aren't being upheld by judges. They're being called, unconscionable or whatever. So for me, that's the interesting part. Because if Heroic did do that, and they've said we did do that, but it's okay because no one signed it, that to me means that Heroic must be disqualified from every league they're in. All the partner leagues, they've got to go, because now that goes beyond, did the players cheat? Did the coach cheat? The org believes that they did and tried to cover it up.
Well, I mean, just on the NDA front, right? There has got to be some piece of language in the Heroic player contract that directly contradicts this idea that they can't talk about the cheating. Presumably one that says that if they're caught in anything immoral at all, their contracts are going to be void almost immediately. They're just going to be fired with no more salary. I'm assuming that even in just legal terms, these things are in some sort of a weird conflict, obviously. And if NDAs could actually override, normal law in Denmark, then we'd be living in a very different world, wouldn't we? Like if I could get my tax accountant to sign an NDA, and now they can't, come after me if I do any more things in the future because my NDA says that they it obviously can't work that way. Another thing that I actually have seen your rant as well about NDAs, but the thing even years ago that always kind of struck me as being weird in the relationship of signing an NDA with a big organization is just that it's one thing to discover that someone has breached the NDA. It's quite another thing to have enough lawyers and money to take someone to court and win that battle. If you're doing that against a huge organization, even if they know that they're wrong and you have the evidence or whatever, I mean, the first thing any team of lawyers for a big org is going to do is postpone that trial until 2050. And now you have to, consult with your lawyer every 3 months, and he's going to want to get. It'll be a nightmare. Your whole life will be just about trying to do this stupid NDA thing. So I'm sure there are niche cases. I mean, I've signed NDAs in certain, usually on behalf of companies or something like that, to sort of try and make sure that people feel safe inside of a meeting or whatever it is. But I feel like between an individual person and a big company, even the power difference makes it kind of laughable.
Yeah. And look, we can say as of today, we got into a weird situation where it looks like all of Heroic sponsors have pulled out.
Oh no!
A la Overwatch League. They've just pieced out. You look at the Heroic sponsor page, and there's just nothing there. So, you know, I mean,
Yeah, that's rough.
you know, look, I'll just say this. If Heroic goes under as an organization and they've done what I think they've done and what they've essentially admitted to in public, fuck them. You know, I'm not going to shed any tears. But we are left with a couple of uneasy questions. And that is, first of all, are we going to be able to prove which players did what? Right? And, you know, I don't think so. I think
doubt it, yeah.
I think based on the evidence that Hunden's going to present, a bit, you know, from my understanding behind the scenes, essentially what you've got is a conversation that can't be taken at face value because it's between a known liar and someone who has a desire to essentially destroy one of the participants or the broader participants. I'll also add, and this is sensitive to tiptoe around, but, you know, let's just say somebody that, you know, you worked with had ADHD, for example, and then you led them into a highly leading conversation, and without their knowledge, you were going to later release it to cover your tracks. I think that's grotesquely unethical to a degree that it's already grotesquely unethical to break a confidence. So,
yeah,
that's just theory, obviously, guys. Just theory, just a little theory. And with Tezes, I don't know. Someone told me these server logs give you a coordinate readout. And so if Tezes did boost Hunden, he will be banged to rights. Does that sound true of your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I no doubt, and should be right. I mean, I'm all on board that if we can prove that the players have participated in this or known about it, then let's bring the hammer. But I'm on your side on this. I can't understand how. I think it's going to be very, very, very hard to prove. And I don't know how long the full chat log or future chat logs might be. But the problem with, I mean, it's actually like, for anyone out there watching, if ever you see like a piece of a quote or something, anything that's like boiled down, the first thing you have to imagine is that, I mean, in this case, Hunden is the editor, I guess, but if it's normally in a piece of news or something, the first thing you have to think is like, well, why did they choose to cut it where they did? Like, even if it doesn't seem suspicious at all, just a regular kind of like, you know, about this politician said this about this thing, like, usually it's part of a longer sentence and it's almost always worth knowing exactly what they're talking about. So I just find the whole thing very suspicious. I'd be interested to read the whole thing if it ever actually gets out there. But it's something else here. I mean, especially with the shorter quotes. If ever, God forbid, my messages on, you know, WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever people use now get hacked and leave, or inevitably when that does happen, there's going to be an enormous amount of outrageous conversations that's made in like, you know, the form of banter and jokes that's obviously not going to be able to be, no one will accept that, right? They will cut out.
Oh no, Americans dominate digital spaces, so new chronology, nuance and context, you're not allowed them.
That can't happen, right?
No.
So you know, you could, so in that I could probably be made to look like a completely ridiculous and unethical person, right? Even though if you sort of, you know, zoomed out just a bit, you'd see, oh, actually, and I'm not saying at all, I don't want to try and run some sort of weird defense here, but if I knew that, like, I guess the chronology of this is that this is before Hunden got busted officially, or like busted himself, I suppose. But after the fact, if I was still talking to Hunden, I probably feel like I wouldn't. But if he was a friend of, he was still in the organization, and I knew I was going to work with him as a coach or whatever in the future, I could definitely see myself making jokes like, haha, like, it's good we all know things are taking a fall for us like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's funny. Like, I maybe people have different levels of humor here, but I just find I can't use like small bits of chat log for anything. That doesn't really do it for me. In terms of Heroic and the sponsorships or whatever else is going on with the organization as itself, I'm as shocked as you are that they keep talking about it. Like, you know, we're talking about lawyers and NDAs.
Oh,
like,
dude, yeah, I know.
Where are their lawyers? Why aren't they shutting up? Please.
Well, I mean, the guy is like the fucking new CEO because they were acquired. And he's come out and gone, yeah, look, I sign NDAs all the time. So, yeah, we did draft an NDA. And the players didn't sign it, so no harm, no foul. It's like, no, the intention is fucking terrible, you silly cunt. But it's what I mean. It's like there's a lot of people don't understand, like, you know, because they're just playing at being like a sports GM or a sports owner for a little bit. They don't really, understand some of the broader context about what they're saying. I mean, a couple of points I'll also just add to this, and then we'll get on to the next topic. The reality is heroic players are being called dishonest. If they were so dishonest, why not sign the guaranteed piece of paper that puts them all in to shut the fuck up about it?
Yeah,
they chose not to. Another thing, Nico says everybody knew whatever he's talking about. Not the first time, but definitely the other time. There were only 2 times that Hunden used the bug. The first at DreamHack Malmo, where they lost to Astralis, right? They actually lost using it, which, when Robban is using it and gets battered 16-1, everyone goes, well, he's just some boomer idiot. He didn't use it or they wouldn't have lost 16-1. Hunden lost to Astralis while using the bug. True. And the other time they used it was in a Sweet Snow or a whatever, one of those cups in the final against Spirit, the Russian guys.
Yeah.
And they won that game. So ultimately what Nico, even if you take Nico's quote at face value and believe it, what that actually says is they only guessed at the last time the bug was used before Hunden was caught. And that means retrospectively after the game. So what do? Do you say in the game, fucking hell, our coach, right, time out, guys, admin, our coach has given us dodgy info here. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a really hard one to solve, isn't it? The thing is, and we talked about this a little bit in Ukraine as well. Like, I try to put myself mentally in the space, and it's so easy to cast yourself as the hero in the scenario and say, "But of course, I would have immediately thrown down my mouse and said, I am out of this game." Like, it's so easy to say that, right? But in actual reality, it's super tricky, right? And maybe you tell the coach afterwards, like, never do that again, but we'll all shut up about it now. So, I mean, that's obviously not the right decision, right? But I have some sympathy for that. I think more than anything, what really annoys me is, again, like what I started out saying, is this feeling that actually, if they had just, or let's say they really are guilty, along with Hunden, they were all in on it, they just let him take the fall initially. It actually probably just would have been better if they had all taken the fall initially, because then they would have just been back now, and they could have, the community would have said, okay, well, they took their punishment, it's all good, like, let them move on. But I actually feel like in this current nightmare that we're living in on the internet, it's somehow worse to not have the evidence and just get convicted by the internet. I feel like that's actually worse than whatever ESIC might do to you, in this case.
Yeah. Well, the other part of this, of course, is, as I said, if Heroic are guilty and the players are guilty and the community is going to accept they are guilty, I really hope you're going to apply that logic of yours to all these other players. And I don't just mean the unpopular ones, like your Hard Legions, who, by the way, I'll just say it, the players knew. Of course they fucking did. They had 2 coaches that were banned for using the bug. It was their little systemic secret, wasn't it? And they beat the likes of Na'Vi while they were doing it. They were the pre-Akuma Akumas, right?
And talking about CEOs that can't shut up.
Oh, yeah, another one, right? So I'm not just talking about them. I think in that case, we're what we're going to have to do to ESIC, if we all want to be logically consistent, and ESIC have already said there's no evidence to do this, no basis to do this, But I think you're going to have to start grilling all these coaches and find out what players knew what and who did what. Because I'll tell you this, I know how tight the MIBR guys are. Dead is banned for life from majors, right?
I want to ask you a question, Richard. What is your interpretation of this clause that ESIC are working out of that says something like things that jeopardize the competitive integrity of the tournament? I actually cannot fully comprehend what that means. I could see how ESL would be super defensive about anything that could lead someone to afterwards come and point and say, well, hold on, ESL, you guys knew that there was something dodgy about this and you didn't act in some appropriate fashion. Obviously, even the most deranged Redditor would never make that charge against ESL for Hunden potentially sharing a Google Drive document with, like, how would they ever know that? Like, it was very, very, very hard to imagine that you could make that charge against ESL, right? So I'm not saying that maybe this is just like too complicated for me to comprehend, and I'm not saying E6 should stay out and have nothing to do with it, but I feel like that particular clause just sounds like it can mean whatever you want it to believe at any point in time, and that does scare me. And I actually want ESIC to be there and be successful. I'm not anti-ESIC in that sense. I'm just confused by that particular wording.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Look, the way I look at it is this: that any sports league has to have broad provisions around it, because you are not going to be able to imagine every single way people are going to violate the rules around the league. It's simply not possible. And so, for example, the one I used was the Ray Rice incident in NFL. For those that don't follow the NFL, Ray Rice was a running back, a very, a decent player, high level. He went out, he got drunk, he had an argument with his significant half and significant other, and in an elevator, on camera, uppercutted her and knocked her out, right? In one of the most shocking, brutal assaults on a woman you can imagine. Now, there is no specific clause in the NFL besides bringing the league into disrepute that they could enact.
Right.
And so they gave him, I think the initial suspension, I don't have it in front of me, it's been a while since I read up on this, but I think the initial suspension was like 4 weeks or something.
Right.
And you can imagine, he's brutally assaulted a woman and is facing criminal charges, and yet he's still going to be allowed to play football. And, domestic violence isn't something that is going to be seen in a trivial view, and it unfortunately is something that actually you hear about quite a lot, from athletes and certain jobs as being a higher percentage of incident. So what did the NFL do? They're under all this pressure publicly, like, you're not taking it seriously, you're trivializing this heinous crime. So they get away, they hold a conference, and they say, right, we now are implementing a policy specifically about what we're going to do to athletes that commit domestic abuse in our league. And they were heralded for doing it. So, you can't, if you, courts have upheld this as well. You don't have to list every particular way a law can be broken, the machinery, the apparatus, the ways it would be broken. The law can be broad and interpreted. And so that's what ESIC have done. They've created, I don't want to call it a catch-all, because I think it's a bit more specific than that, but to protect the integrity of the league. They don't know what technology is going to come along tomorrow where people can, fuck up the integrity of our matches,
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and then obviously the relevant thing then becomes the trust that the community have in ESIC, right? To not, mishandle that clause, right? Which I again, I'm kind of willing to give them that, because I actually think we do need them. So
we do, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I want to make sure that I understand that too, because I feel like there was some criticism levied at them, and that was the one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind too. I was like, wait, it actually does feel like that could be applied to almost everything, but maybe there is a good reason for it. So in that case, cool.
Yeah, and look, I'll say as well, just in this specific incident, they have said specifically, ESIC, if he had done this at any other time, this is how just dumb Hunden is, like how anyone could think this guy is intelligent or Machiavellian in any ways beyond me. He's a moron. Like he's exposed himself to be a moron. But, if he'd done it at any other time, they wouldn't have been involved. It would have just been a contract dispute, right? And and they've specifically said that publicly. Okay. So, I think for now, I mean, trust me, if ESIC turn evil, if they go CSPPA, I'll be the first to call them out. They know this. So, but I agree. We have to be careful about what we acquiesce to. Just ask Americans.
I had another point of positivity.
Good.
This show needs that, and now that Duncan's not here, I feel like this is my moment. Do you think that there's an argument to be made in light of all of this madness that actually CS is just way ahead of the curve for every other game that's out there? Let's just take Valorant as the example. That actually they probably have all of these problems coming up just in some future arc that they don't know about yet. And if we can get through this in some reasonable fashion, we'll actually be way stronger. Like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All that, whatever the tropes are. Like, I just feel like maybe you could make that argument that a thing like ESIC actually needs to be tested And it really sucks when it's going on, but maybe in the future we can, because we're asking for legitimacy, and if we could be sports, we just wish, if only the media would refer to us as being like sports, we'd be really happy about that. Well, maybe one of the things that's needed is to have like a strong organizations like ESIC that has a record of trustworthy, judgments that they've handed out and all of that, and they can't really have that, can they, without people fucking up like Hunden.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think we're like too many dramas down the road. I mean, that's my take on it. And we're always still going to be the shooty, bang, bang game with the terrorists in it. You know, we have a massive credibility problem just to get in the room. And we were so big in 2016 and 2017 that you could get in the room despite that. And now we have all of the baggage that CS has had its entire life against the backdrop of any time someone shoots anyone else in the world. Politicians and the media look to try and say, how did the video games do this? So you've got that, and obviously ours being one of the more realistic is always going to come up first. It's Counter-Strike and Call of Duty are the two. And then on top of that, now we have a massive integrity problem.
Yeah.
So what do? So,
you know what, Richard? One of the questions I was asked at that initial interview I talked about was, I don't know if it was actually in the final cut of the interview, but it was something like, do you think Hunden still has a place in Counter-Strike? Which seems like a ridiculous question. But my answer was something like, I didn't think he had a place in Counter-Strike at all after the coach bug. Like, it shows what I know. I guess I'm just wrong. So for all I know, Hunden is going to be right back, like in 6 or 12 months doing something else. Like, I don't know. Like, it is wild when you think about it. Because this is the other thing, right? The attention span of most people is so unbelievably short that in 2 weeks, we'll all be talking about something else, right? Like, this will be old news, and there will be something else going on, and we'll be condemning other people, and just by that shift of focus, people are kind of redeemed in some way, and it's like, who can remember what happened, right?
Yeah. So that's all the Hunden drama. I mean, we're now just essentially waiting on the ESIC report, so I guess you'll be hosting this show because I'll be dead. You'll be 70. And,
something like that.
Yeah, and Thorin, the ever-living, will emerge from his hyperbolic tomb.
I know. Staying young on adrenochrome or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, exactly, to call Device a cunt for no reason. So, yeah, brilliant. At least the show will go on, eh, guys? What a mess. Right, there's some other stories, Anders. Obviously, we do cover the news on this show. So, and I've obviously signed my death warrant by insulting Saint Simple, so whatever.
I know, it's nice knowing you.
It was nice having us. Why don't we talk, since you're playing the role of optimist today, let's do one news story. Sweden, a great country.
Yeah, at times. Sure. No.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Not for the food.
I didn't even find the Sweden yes memes funny. I thought they were very disturbing and have no place on the internet. But yes, Sweden, yes, it is great. We all love a bit of Sweden. And the good news is they're getting their shit together on the old Rona front. And so now, according to the news, the coronavirus restrictions that were in place that were preventing the gathering of crowds, travel for sports athletes, all the stuff we were having to wrestle with as we planned the PGL major in Stockholm, they are going to be lifted as of the 29th of September.
Great news.
Yeah, I mean, well,
there's so many things about the story about the major that just confuse me. I actually thought I was having a stroke for a minute when some of the news seemed to be around different Swedish organizations negotiating with the government to try. I thought that must just be me on drugs again or something like that. I have no idea what's happening. I couldn't even make sense of it, so I just closed that tab and thought, I'm out. I don't understand. And the other thing that I don't understand is why people were yelling to begin with at PGL. It just seems to me, if I'm hosting a tournament, and on the one hand, like, if I know that I can do this in Romania with a full audience, I am going to go to whatever Swedish organizations or government officials or bureaucrats that I'm talking to. I'm going to say, listen, I have a firm I have a firm offer on this one side. This is my thing that I have. I have an audience. I have a stadium. I can put people in that stadium. You have to guarantee me at least that. Like, if I'm switching jobs somewhere, likely I'm going to say, well, I'm making this amount, over at this job. I kind of want to make the same or more. I have some other benefits or whatever, right? Like, that seems just to be like the standard base requirement for anything. And if they couldn't get that, approval, then why would they sign up to like, we've all been here. I mean, we haven't been able to do anything else other than follow the news. So we've all seen what happens in every country, whether you believe it's a good or a bad thing, doesn't really matter. Like, we've all seen how the rules can change really, really rapidly. Why would you subject yourself to that if you're PGL? I have no idea. I hope it will be in Sweden. I think it'd be awesome to do it in Sweden. I think it'd be awesome to do it in Romania too, by the way. But if it's officially opened up, that seems like it's great news. I don't know what all the other noise was, but
the key is, wherever it is in the world, it will be awesome with a crowd of Counter-Strike fans.
True.
That's what we need at the major more than anything else. And the bigger the crowd, the better. Frankly, I know that's not a popular opinion, because doesn't that make me like some COVID denialist to say I just want to see crowds again? But I do. It's been 2 years almost. I miss LANs. I miss stadiums full of fans cheering. And with vaccine rollout and, masks and everything we've learned about coronavirus since it just came out of nowhere.
Can I just, because I'm playing the role of
offer your antibodies?
Can I just make this about me for a second? Like the whole.
You're a Democrat, are you? Okay, yeah, sure.
The whole major, the whole like Counter-Strike being online. I just want to turn it all about me.
Yeah, please do. Go for it.
I noticed this when I was in Kiev with Semla. We were doing the We Play, the academy teams thing, which was actually incredibly awesome. But that made me realize, like, because mentally I was in such a different space when I was there, because we were in a studio and it was like real Counter-Strike being played. It felt differently. And it made me realize, man, I understand now why the last, almost 2 years, why I've had this weird hole in my life that I just haven't been able to fill with anything. Like, it immediately, I should have probably been, I didn't probably have to go to Kiev to find that out. But as soon as that happened, I was like, God, that's what's up. Like, I actually am just missing something that I normally dedicate an enormous amount of time to, and I just can't do it. So yeah, like I have the same feeling. I really badly miss it, and it's keeping me sane to go to these events. And so for that, just to make me survive, we should definitely have the Counter-Strike events in Sweden with an audience.
Well, look, just while we're here doing the sides and making it all about you, you're a fucking idiot, by the way. I love you to death. But why did you break Richard Lewis's rules about coronavirus on social media? Why did you ever say
I know
you had it?
I know.
Why? Why would you ever do that? You know the rules. We all swore on the holy book of Richard Lewis, esports Jesus. You never, if you get coronavirus, you just take it to the grave. If it kills you, you died in mysterious circumstances. No one ever talks about it.
That or global warming. Just don't mention it. Nothing good. You can't have a conversation about it.
But here's the thing: the rules of coronavirus are this: you can only say one mantra, right? If you're a personality person, you just say, "Look, get vaccinated, respect the science, I'm out. Fuck the conversation. That's it." And if you get it, don't tell anyone you got it. But if you got it, tell everyone it's mild, and you were definitely double spiked. In fact, you literally were about to just have your booster as you got it, and then people will leave you alone, right? And that's what it's all about. It's just about being left alone. But you were like, yeah, well, guys, I think I owe it to my loving audience to let you all know I have a bit of the old COVID. And then, of course, 8 fucking Reddit threads that we were talking about on Discord. I just don't think Anders loves his family. I warned you.
Richard, we can make this so much worse because, there's a real chance that I'm patient 0 in Denmark for
No, I remember, because didn't you have it? You had it when you got back from China, didn't you?
Before anyone knew what COVID was, there's at least a chance. Now, we actually, as soon as we found out that COVID was a thing, I actually called like the hospital and said, you know, I actually had a bunch of these symptoms and was like all wrecked, you know, after being a month in China, month of November in 19 or whatever it was. Maybe we should test me. Just, I mean, that might be scientifically relevant to know, you know. Even I understand the idea of virus mutations and all the rest of it. So I thought maybe they'd want to know, but they were like, we don't have like, stop calling us. So they just didn't. That was it. But it was suspiciously timed. Now, I'll say this. I mean, I actually
you were playing with a pangolin as well.
You're playing with but
at the last event.
No, but I have this thing, Richard. So I don't know. I've noticed many other people when they go to these events in different countries, they go to like the tourist malls that are just like these brand malls, and there's nothing in the world that I hate more than brand malls. Where you go in and there's like a Gucci shop and a Nike shop. I just think that is like one of the worst places in the world to be. So I always go to the hotel reception. And I say, where do the locals go to shop? Can I just go there? Can I see like a market, night market? I don't care. Just drive me there. Now, they don't want to do it in China because they're really scared that you're going to get all kinds of fucked up. So eventually I talked someone into, you know, getting me to one of these weird places. And I'm telling you, it was unbelievably weird. Just, I can't even begin to describe how odd that place was and how fucked up it was in general. But I was there and, you know, getting like seeing myself around and all the rest. I actually asked Jason to go, and he literally said, "You're going to catch some weird disease. I'm not coming with you." Now,
you're being told that by little Momo.
I know.
Oh, God.
Had more
I mean, dude, I remember when you got back from China and like you were super sick, and you're right. It was like, it was bang on the timeline.
Yeah,
so,
real good timeline for it.
It's possible.
Now, so it's just a quick departure, right? I have, because you've been saying this for years now, that the internet and social media especially is making people mentally ill. And
all the studies coming in, by the way, I've been bookmarking them. I've been so ahead of the curve. Like, I should see. I will mention this to you as well. My brother is a professor in psychology, so when we talk, which isn't as often as I would like because we're both very busy people, but when we talk, say like, you know, hey mate, social media is making everyone's box fucking go, innit? And he's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, you know, so I've had a bit of insider info there.
So the recommendation that most people will give to anyone who is like a internet, you know, like whatever it is, like F-tier celebrity or something in esports, is something like just don't read your mentions. If your name is on HLTV or Reddit, don't click the links. Like, just stay out of it. Tweet whatever you need to tweet or whatever, and just get the fuck out. Now, I actually have like this. I want to try and like run the campaign to do the opposite. Like, I want the old internet where you could like interact with anyone. Like, I've got my DMs open and people message me sometimes about random shit, and I try and reply to them. Like, I try and say, you know, like, and sometimes it's really incoherent shit. But even then, I try to like, because I think that would just be a nice world to live in. But whenever this stuff happens, like with me and COVID, and someone like I said, I've got COVID, I'm sick, but I'll be all right. Like, you know, it's not fun, but whatever. And someone asked me, have you been vaccinated? I said, I haven't been vaccinated. And then immediately, like 50 people were like making a whole giant conspiracy of assumptions about why that was and what it must mean that I must have also mailed in my vote for Trump automatically. It's like, what is happening? Like, this is
you, me, Thorin, Semler, all of the boys. We all basically defied. We were the ones that were rigging the election in 2016, guys.
I know.
Actually, it was us people that can't offer support for Trump in any meaningful way. We were all out there just filing our ballots. I remember distinctly. I went in there. Do you remember, Anders? I went in there 10 times, didn't I? In a variety of costumes. You know, it was great. It was great. What a fucking absolute mess.
No, but so here's the thing, though. One person in particular was basically accused me of prolonging the pandemic by.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I actually wanted to reason with this person because I thought, like, you must understand that you don't know my entire medical history. Like, you just made the assumption that I wasn't getting vaccinated because basically I believe that we live on a flat Earth and that I'm an anti-vax. Like, all this madness. He just made all the assumptions, and I tried to say, hey, you actually know nothing about my life. Like, can you at least admit that this part of your argument is assumptions? Now, if the assumptions are correct, then maybe you're even right. Like, maybe that could even be true. But the assumptions might be wrong. Could you see how that? I couldn't get him there. Like,
you never can.
No, and I read it all evening, and I was like with my family and just being angry on my phone on Twitter, like, why are they not like? It's so stupid, and like that. so that really made me think, like, maybe this whole interacting with people on the internet is actually not going to work as it's so hard to do. Like, I guess most people don't have the experience in the same way because it has something to do with like being in the spotlight in a certain way, but it's actually crazy when I've had it happen a couple of times. I mean, the other time that I had it happen famously was when I tried to promote the work of some DreamHack producers that had produced like a little documentary. And
I remember that.
People on Reddit thought that I was doing it because I was also in the documentary for about a minute, and they said it was because I was starving for attention and that I wanted to be. I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, I just want these. I know I knew the producer. She's like a cool producer at DreamHack. I knew her. She'd put a lot of work into it. They'd done it for like no pay, including the camera people. I thought it was cool if their documentary got more than 1,000 views on YouTube instead of the memes that are on top of the, on the Reddit. I just thought it'd be awesome if that was the case. But it's just, once you go down that road, there's no coming back. So just to say, social media is making people really insane, but I'm trying to fight it.
Mate, that's the problem. The fight will only make you insane. It's like, what's that Buddhist saying? Like holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting your opponent to die. That's social media, dude. Like, I mean,
it feels like too.
What I do, you see, I'm not trying to win the argument. What I do is I'm trying to hold up a mirror so I can break their brains. And then whatever happens to them after that point, brilliant, right? I don't care. I'm out, right? But like, so you just ask them questions until they get stuck in an existential loop that ruins them, So they say, you're an arsehole because you did this, and this. Well, why do you think that? And then they explain why they think that. And then you go, do you feel that this evidence here contradicts that? And then they don't, and you keep going and going and going and going. And eventually they give up. They break. And so as long as you're mentally strong enough. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. So but I've had this conversation with so many of the bros, dude. I remember Sean Gez after the Reggie thing. And he was going, why can't people see? Why won't people listen? He was like, really? He'd been used to being beloved his entire life. And I'm going, this is what happens when you get into an internet fight. You fought, but you have lost. And all the attempts to make people understand that you really won will not change public perception at all and will only be seen as whining and mewling. You did win, Sean. Anyone with a brain knows you did. But it doesn't matter because public opinion says you lost. So every time you say, I really won, you lose. And so I've had this conversation so many times. I mean, like even with Momo when we did that interview recently, where he said like he just unplugged from the internet for 2 months after being, fired by Liquid because he just knew what it was going to be.
Move. Yeah.
It was. He even said in that interview, which I don't know if you watched, but he did say the bald fraud meme really hurt his feelings, which shame on you for coming up with it, Anders.
Listen, and he knew it was coming. That's the best part. Like he actually, because it was happening before he became coach of Liquid, so you could see the writing was on the wall already. And it is funny with Sean, isn't it? Like he should have gone back to just posing his swan neck on Instagram, and it would have been
indeed.
Fine.
Yeah, him and Shazam together
would have been cool.
But look, so here's one thing I want to run by you as well before we get into more news, because I realized we didn't talk about it. I wanted to bring up the specter of Astralis. Now, one of the things that's going around is there's a conspiracy theory. So I thought, who better to discuss it with than Anders, Lord of the conspiracies. So one of the things I've noticed in all the Hunden coverage is the fact that he was joining Astralis, and it was Astralis that didn't open the document, but only aren't embroiled by the good graces of not opening that document. Nobody's mentioning Astralis in any of these stories, not in the TV2.tk coverage. ESIC only said their name once. HLTV haven't talked about them. And so one of the things that people keep telling me behind the scenes is, oh, Richard, I know you say you don't do the journalism thing, but are you willing to fuck your life up a bit more for my entertainment and investigate this? Because I've been told. And so the story goes that Astralis, under the guise of the Machiavellian Nicola Nyholm. Now, remember, guys, this is an elaborate fan fiction conspiracy at this point. Basically set Hunden up as some insane patsy by offering him a job when him and all the Astralis players actually despised him and would never work with him because remember he cheated against them and only did less than a year ban for it. And that's why they didn't click on the folder and open it because and then when ESL interviewed everyone, they went, "Oh yeah, look what Hunden's been trying to do." And so then they say, "Don't worry, Hunden, we were totally really going to give you that job, but you know, Heroic are just pieces of shit. So now you must turn on them," and just so happened to destroy our Danish rivals that had jumped above us in the pecking order and were just getting more interest and more fans and making more money and overshining us when we've just floated on the stock market. Isn't the timing terrible? So I'll connect you with a PR guy. Remember the one you used last time when you did the first shit thing you did? We'll connect you with him. And here's our good friends at tv2.dk. And have at it. A story. No, Hunden. Don't tell the story all in one go. Just do it week after week after week after week so we can just watch Heroic die piece by piece. The more negative headlines they have while we go through a transition over here with our shit squad and who Zipnix is back and Clave's going and are the players going to sign? Definitely not. They're all leaving. You just keep doing a story every week over there, Hunden, so no one's talking about us, and we'll definitely work something out down the road. Now, people have told me that is the gospel. And on top of that, just to add an extra little meta layer to it, they've also told me that one of the players who came out publicly and said Heroic are disgusting was Config. And I'm also told he's definitely going to join Astralis down the road, right? So there's this mad conspiracy theory behind the scenes that no one's talking about publicly, but I'm done with CS and don't give a fuck. So what do you make of all of this?
So, okay, so I am into conspiracy theories, and part of my reasoning is that, you know, the best thing about conspiracy theories is usually they're so much more interesting than the actual real world. And
Yeah.
I just prefer to live in that space. Now, eventually, you have to exit this is where people really fuck up. Is they can't get out. You know, they still want to believe that Trump secretly had a plan to like arrest Biden at the last minute, which I think was an incredible story. I loved living in that story. I just also was able to escape and sort of come back to reality and realize, no, we're not actually leaving that world. But it's fun when it's going. It's way more fun than just accepting the fact that most of the politicians are.
I love you're so mental that you're going. That conspiracy theory that like terrifies everyone in America is actually hilarious to me. You're so much braver than me, Anders. I love it. Do continue. Dig your grave, sir.
I think like it's just an amazing source of entertainment. Now, if you can't get out, it stops being entertaining and people ruin their lives or rude. But I get out. I just escape that shit. So for me, the idea that Nicola Nyholm could be this, like, could have orchestrated all of it. Now, obviously, the outcome is the same if he just literally does nothing, right? Like all of the things probably just stack up the same way. So you don't have to believe any of it. But of course, that's a wicked story. What an awesome someone should write that down. Yeah,
it would, right, mate? It would give me, I like straight up, like I know Nicola Nyholm watches. You're a hate viewer, brother. If you have done it,
amazing.
If you have done it, me and you have got to bury the hatchet and be friends. Like it's such a mad, evil genius.
Well, that's the thing, though. It would give you, like, even if you realized it was evil and manipulative, and it buries Hunden as a person, you can just never you still would have to be like, that is still kind of cool, though. You know, like actually, I have this theory. This is why I think most people get into conspiracy theories. Is that if you only have two alternatives, one is that the world is mainly governed by just incompetent idiots that are the same people that work in, well, I don't know, your local municipality, like your local politicians that like
esports orgs
or esports orgs. So like their choices were like being drunk in a bar or working in local politics, right? But you want to believe that if you get to like a really high level, well, then the geniuses come out, and these are the people that can like actually see like many steps, and they're playing all the four-dimensional backgammon, whatever the memes are. Like they're doing all that shit, right? You want to believe that because then it's actually more comforting than just imagining that we're just all aboard this like insane ride where the wheels are coming off and like there are no like engineers left, really. It's just all fucking madness, right? So I kind of get why people psychologically want to believe that no, but there is an orchestrating force. I might even be good for Counter-Strike esports if Nikolai Nyholm was this incredible chess player and could just do all this shit. Like maybe he could fix some shit. Even if you had to break a few hundreds or whatever.
I sort of agree as well. It's too. It's like those things where it's like you need so much coincidences to occur for the plan to come to fruition. Like, of course, I knew you would be there at 9 o'clock, and I knew that room temperature would be like, it's like, it's like a bad movie, the story, but it is out there. It is circulating. I have poked around the edges and asked a few people. I found nothing that corroborates it, but it does just strike me as interesting that Astralis essentially just get to walk away from all of this when they were definitely involved on some level. I mean, he was effectively doing it under financial inducement to join Astralis, and in the latest fucking interview, he said, he went, "I only showed nameless Danish organization the documents because I wanted them to see what my work was like. The thing I told him he should have said at the start if he had half a fucking brain." But he didn't.
Someone in your chat just wrote "buck-breaking Nyholm," which is, if we could get Tariq Nasheed mixed into this somehow, I'd be...
he'll come to esports one day, mark my words. Mark my words. I can't wait for the buck-breaking esports special. That's going to be fucking great.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable scenes. Right, moving on from conspiracy theories. That was all.
I thought that was great. I love that part. This is amazing.
So, what about coldzera? Say the kids. We have to talk about him. coldzera said on one of his streams, we all know he likes to tell these incredible, fantastical stories. He's like amazing, like that film Big Fish, right? If anyone's seen that. Yeah, and when I went up to Device, he was crying in the club. So coldzera basically said, "I've been offered thousands of teams. Everyone wants a piece of the coldzera." And we had Andre Akari, one of the Furia investors, say they talked to coldzera. It didn't work out. He said he only wanted to sign a short-term contract. And then, of course, it's now been revealed that he's joined Complexity as essentially, because Russia's gone, but Config's broke his wrist. So they're all still in turmoil about what kind of the team's going to look like. But my understanding is he signed for Complexity through to the early next year. So it's going to be the whole major cycle, the major when they get there and everything else. So I just wanted to talk with you about, how do you feel about coldzera jumping into this unbelievably unlucky Complexity team?
I mean, on one hand, I actually think it's fucking incredible, but it's one of these positions that can lead to an enormous amount of tragedy, because Complexity have been like the most just stricken team when it comes to just having the most amount of misfortune possible, I have to imagine. There's never getting their full lineup together. Poison's out. I mean, even you go further back, like how much trouble they had getting everyone in. Like, it's been a real mess. And sometimes when it happens, you can kind of blame the organization, but I really feel like a lot of this you have to just shrug and say, damn, that's just a lot of incredible misfortune, really. And now, obviously, just to add to all of it, Config messing up his hand, but now coldzera is coming in. Now, the problem I think that can, immediately that pops up in my mind, damn, what if they actually outplay everyone with Cold in the lineup? And now people will start to say, oh, but it's Config. And I think that immediately I'm going to dismiss that. Right off the bat, Config is fucking amazing. But that, you don't have to change a lot, right? And especially if you got that honeymoon thing that going on. Plus, there's something else that I don't know. It's so crazy to me how much Cold disappeared after the whole MIBR, fiasco thing and getting benched and all the rest of it. Yeah. It's really mad. But one of the things that I feel like he was well known for, apart from obviously being at one point, just one of the best players, like top 1, 2, 3 in the world or whatever, was the amount of, let's say, pull or gravity that he has in a team to make people wake the fuck up and do some work. I think he's one of these people that it's going to be real hard for you to watch anime until 3 in the morning and then sort of show up late for practice if Cold is on your team. You're just not going to get away with doing that for very long. And you're going to feel that I must match this guy in like preparation and do something because they just think it's that intense, right? Now, what that will do to a team like Complex, you're already incredibly hungry. I mean, obviously, Blameth is unbelievably hardworking. You can't really doubt that because the results and the way that they approach the game kind of speaks for itself, right? So I actually think that in some insane way, the chemistry is there to make it a success story, but just the success story will entail some immediate tragedy because shaping into my Duncan, role here. Fuck the fans, and they will never be able to like get the nuance between, Cold being still an unbelievable resource, even if he's been away from the top for a while, and the fact that Config is also a really good resource, right? Like both can be true, but that nuance will probably almost certainly be gone, and people will be like, mine is Config plus Cold.
There's a lot going on with the complexity roster move here. Because and these are thoughts in no particular order. The first thing is, and I hope, because Config's been outrageously good this year. He's been one of the best players in the world.
Yeah,
he's on course to obviously be in the HLTV top 20. Whereabouts that's going to be, I don't really know. Still got a while to go yet. This injury is really unfortunate within that context, but I still think by the end of the year he's going to have done enough to be in there, obviously. But there is no guarantee he comes back from this injury the same player. It's a horrific injury. It's essentially a multiple spiral fracture in the wrist. And as a result, you can see from the photo he himself posted out, he's had to have, some sort of surgery on it, stitches. It's all swolled up. And it's real bad. You don't know if he's going to be the same player when he gets back. And if he isn't, how long's the road to recovery? Is there a road to recovery? I mean,
can't he have wrist replacement surgery? Can't we get Dust Moret's wrist? He can still throw the disc with one hand, Richard. It's going to be fine.
That's true. I mean, I always knew there'd be a part in my life where essentially we just break down Dust for parts. That was always coming, really. So, I mean, I'm happy to give a wrist to Config.
Dibs on that, on that ass.
Yeah. You can take the dump truck, baby. You'll be fucking twerking next time you're out there trying to go to parts unknown. You can be out there twerking with this massive dump truck of an ass. We didn't put the dump truck ass emote, did we, in the Twitch chat? Sadly, it's on the Discord.
Immediate 100 subscribers if that happens. Immediate.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know if he's going to get back. So I think Coldzera's potential to stick around this team for a while, if things go well initially, is actually quite long, because Config might need a lot of physiotherapy, a lot of recovery. Who knows? The next thought is, I understand he's a nice guy. I say this all the time, but I'm also a miserable prick. So I am sick to death of NATO Safix. I'm just sick of him. Sick of him. And here's why I'm sick of him. I have never seen such a subpar, obviously tier 2 at best for his entire life player, given so many chances to be in tier 1, be so bad so often, get cut so often, and all the fans on Reddit are going, yeah, but if he just gets the right team. And that was fine, right? Because I never hate people because of the fucking fans. Because if you do that, you'll hate everyone, right? But
True.
He started getting on Reddit and going, listen, man, my stats don't matter. I just do what I can to make the team better. Well, you bombed out of another tournament, you cunt. So shut up. You're not making them better. You're not making them better. There was never a chance they were going to go, fucking hell, I'm loving bombing out of a tournament with this NATO guy. He's so cool. Let's sign him on a permanent contract. And yet he's always there on Reddit doing all these little cheeky, hey, what do you know? How dare you criticize my stats? And everyone, because if you're a nice guy, you're allowed to be a passive-aggressive arsehole. I've definitely found that out quite a bit, actually, this year. He's always, they're all going, yes, go off, King. Go off, live your best life, King. Hold this W, King. Hold these nuts. He is a fucking bum. He is a bum. Can we stop pretending he's just going to somehow get good? He's like 26.
Yeah, but he's also... Listen, this is obviously the North American classic, let's say, professional career, is that you get signed to a top team and then you go into streaming more or less right away, right? But it seems like Safix has done the opposite in a way, and I mean I appreciate the fact that he's building his YouTube and Twitch and streaming all the rest of it, but it sort of feels a little bit like if you're going to be doing that, it's also really hard to dip your toes every once in a while into tier 1 Counter-Strike, and
you're nuts.
Yeah, or you're nuts. It's because you're always going to have a way to pull them out again, right? If it gets too hot, you can escape. So I even question like the motivation. It even makes sense to me why. Like I think I would have trouble with that if I had, like a sort of a too many options. Basically, it's like, oh, if things don't work out in the professional level Counter-Strike, well then I'll just jump on and do the Twitch and the streaming thing or whatever, right? Like you have to make up your mind at one point, and I imagine that if you're going to be like tier 1 professional Counter-Strike player, there's not going to be room for much else. That's probably the thing.
We've all found that out down the years, right? And it's like, listen, I got nothing against the guy, but like, just because there's a bunch of cretins gassing you up on social media does not mean that somehow you are actually a great player. It's just it's staggering to me that he's got the affront to sort of come out and go, hey, my stats are bad because I'm making everyone else better. No. That is not always true. Do not tell me that Complexity are better off without Rush. Don't do it. Because he had bad stats, but you know what? He had stats in some tournaments worse than this guy, which is fucking real bad. But you could always see what he was doing for his teammates if you know anything about the game. So I guarantee if I set the Blame F now, just ported him into the show, mate, would you rather have Rush or NATO on your team? It's not, he'd fucking spit in my face for asking the question, probably. And I wouldn't be able to do anything about it because he's fucking massive, Anders.
That is true. What I love the most is this idea that if Complexity, like if it really if that team broke down, I hope they don't. I'm actually a huge fan of this team. I think it's awesome, but I just wish that they could have like even 3 months or something where they had like a stable lineup and could make all the events and all the rest of it. But if it ever broke down, that he could just actually join the NFL team instead. Just go play for them. To be amazing.
Options
there. Go right in.
And then the other thing about this in no particular order.
Yes.
One of the things that I know I've brought it up before, it's not a popular opinion. I still look at this tournament run they had here, and I look at JKS's stats, and I look at JKS's performance overall, and bar 1 or 2 performances, which you always know about because Sponge always fucking tweets about them. He's actually been just a massive disappointment since he joined Complexity. And so one of the things that I hope definitely happens is Config gets back. You've got Cold Zero around the team, who's had a run in the team, and suddenly we're not talking about, well, Cold Zero is a short-term replacement and a stand-in. We're talking about, actually, is JKS going to get his shit together? Because I want him to get his shit together, but he ain't got his shit together.
I actually think I have some room because I have actually been defending JKS for a long time because I really have a high opinion of him. Yeah, exactly. I've been like holding the shield up for him for a while, but I kind of agree, actually. That would be I feel like we're owed that arc with Complexity. Like, what a redemption that would be. Yeah. I mean, if the second best is Config comes back and JKS plays the way that we know that he can, at least at one point in his career, then I'll settle for that. But if that doesn't happen, if the arc is Cold is there instead, that would be incredibly sick, wouldn't it? And I just want to also, display my love for Rush. I've watched many Complexity games exclusively from Rush point of view, and I actually think people have unless you've gone through that experience, you have no idea how much he's doing for his team. It's crazy. He is so active in setting up everyone. Like, it's just, and some people will claim that and sort of say, well, that's what, but Rush, if he's suddenly in a position where he's then the front man for whatever reason, then he handles that just fine. Like, he obviously has a high output, like he can frag and all that. Like, I agree. I just want to share that love with everyone else. I know you were doing it as well, but yeah, it's. I think he's super underrated in my opinion.
There's just before we get into the last part of the show, and we are going to be doing viewer questions and everything. I know, yeah, can't wait, right? I did want to also tell you a little story that happened to me just the other day, right? Because NIP were playing, and obviously this is I'd predicted that they were going to win. And I said they were going to have a good run here. And obviously that was before all the unfortunate rumors circulating around Device and him maybe being a little bit distracted, right? and understandably so. Nothing but sympathies there. But anyway, so when I realized they were going to let me down and make me look wrong, and I'd have to deal with all the idiot fans, I decided, right, I'll show them. So I tried to sneak on to the ESL broadcast in the fan cam, which right, I don't know. Hang on, I'm gonna link it to Sam. I don't know. Do you want to? We can play this clip, can't we? Is he there? Yeah. All right. Sorry, I didn't prepare you for this.
Only the producer. Is he there?
Right. But yeah, but the point is, right, I didn't just want to sit in the fan cam because, like, you know, whatever, that's just fucking weird. What I wanted to do was hold up a sign that said, I think I've got it here still. It said nothing in PayPal, right? And obviously that's because Nip is a piece of shit org, right? Now,
Getting who you're saying this to, Richard.
yeah, NIP Anders.
I know.
So that's what I wanted to do, right? What happened was I was trying to hold up this sign, and every time I thought we might be going to fan cam, I was holding up this sign. So you have to understand the scene, right? Some weird 39-year-old boomer has come into the fan cam. You're only allowed 16 fans, right? Because of the way it's all split up on the screen. So it's like 16 fans and one ESL dude in there, one ESL producer, right? And so I'm just sat in there with a bunch of teenagers who were all rooting for OG, right? And what's weird about when you sat in the fan cams, they are actually talking to each other. Like someone said, like, "Oh yes, come on, OG, this is so easy." And then the girl who was there went, "It's not fucking easy. We're really struggling. It's like 12-12, you dickhead." And they were all like, sort of like, you know, there was tensions, like it was a genuine fan zone. So I've just sat there, a 39-year-old boomer, you know. I don't think they know who I am at first. And certainly the ESL guy doesn't. And I keep trying to get this into the shot, right, every time we're doing it, right? And then and the ESL guy goes, "You're there? Yes, you're the one," and he's the one who looks like budget Joe Rogan on the clip we're about to see. He's going, "You there? Yes, you, yes, you, Maitreya. Stop with the sign. Stop with the sign. Stop with the sign now. You have tried the sign all day. Please be stopping with the sign." And so everyone's like in the chats is like, who is this fucking moron that just won't put the sign down? It was me, right? and I went, "All right, mate, yeah, no worries." And someone went, "Wait a minute, that's fucking Richard Lewis." And apparently I got noticed on the stream, and so everyone was now saying, "Oh, hey, Richard, like, didn't recognize you, don't know who you are, you know, why would I?" And then anyway, the producer, for whatever reason, still doesn't know who I am, right? And goes, "Listen, I want to make something clear to you about the sign." And I'm going, "I'm just going to go now, mate. I'm just going to go." He goes, "No, listen about the sign." He said, God bless this guy. We'll have to get a beer. Like, this is so ridiculous. Like, I've wrecked this cunt for no reason. But he kept going, "No, the thing is, you probably are thinking now that we are biased to NIP, that we are standing by the NIP, then we are not fans of the NIP. This is not happening here. You could use a sign that even says they are greedy, if you like." He even suggested that for some reason. I don't know why. But your sign specifically says PayPal, and we are not sponsored by the PayPal, and PayPal is a big brand, you know, and I'm just going, "Mate, I'm gonna go, yeah, you can stop this now anytime you want, mate." And he's going, "No, but you must listen about the PayPal." He's like, literally, I got fucking chewed up. I had this like 20-minute fucking lecture about why you can't show brands on signs in a fucking ESL broadcast. Anyway, we'll just play it anyway because Chad and Machine noticed me. So for the public record, Sam, 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1, go.
You really did find a little uncut diamond, didn't they?
Yeah, it's great to see, right? Still more and more talent being found. Is that Richard Lewis in the camera?
Is it?
That's Richard Lewis. He's in the bloody fan cams. Hello, Richard.
Richard Lewis fan cam experience. Go catch him now if you can.
You've only got probably about 3 more rounds to do so. So go say hi.
Yeah. You really did find a...
Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to interact with any fans because I was too busy being
yelled
lectured. Yeah, I was too busy getting absolutely fucking wrecked.
Hold on. Can I just say this? If someone does show up on the opposite fan cam at some point with a sign that says NIP are greedy, that actually would be amazing. What an amazing sign.
Oh, dude, I'm saying now, we absolutely just have to fucking Like, we've all got to make concerted effort. All the talent, when we're not on air, we all have to try and sneak into the fan camps with outrageous signs. Like, why not? Why? It's all dead in Anders. It's all dead in 2 years.
I know, but it is.
And for half of us, it's the only way we'll get back on an ESL broadcast. So
I love it.
I'm going to tell Duncan to do it when he gets back. Right. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to do, and then we'll definitely do the questions. Right. RPK, it's official. He has retired. Letang is gone. He's been decommissioned. And obviously it's official. We were wondering, is he going to come back? Might he try another team? Might he go to Valorant? My understanding is actually it's a retirement from esports entirely. I don't even know if he's even going to chance his arm over in the Valorant scene. And so one of the things we always do when players that we like and love and admire retire, you know, there won't be one of these for NATO Safix.
Right under the door.
I'll just keep going. Fuck it. Right. But we tell a story. We tell a story about them. Me and Duncan always do. Duncan's stories are always, needless to say, I had the last laugh. It's always one of them. And I always tell like a funny one. And I've got one for RPK from back in the day, because all the CSGO fans didn't even see best RPK. You saw good RPK. You never saw best RPK, where he won like fucking every MVP in an entire year or something insane when he was playing Source. So for the best team that won every tournament in Source. So do you have an RPK story, Anders?
The thing is with RPK, right? He you know, he could obviously speak English, but he wasn't like the most talkative guy. Like, I think either on the team or outside of it. So not specifically, but I didn't get to see him the Source days, right? But I have one sort of secondhand from Vendetta, who obviously played against him back in those days, in Source, and he tried to sort of convey to me the feeling of playing against that team. And he said it was something like this: you'd be holding a bomb site, and suddenly flashbangs would just rain down from the heavens, and you were flashed for like a good maybe 15 seconds, and then everyone was dead by the time you were like, he just said it was so overpowering, right? And it wasn't like just an all-around Source thing. It was like this team in particular just, you know, essentially unstoppable. I thought that was like a cool visual. It's just like, this is just dead people when you get unflashed. Like, you don't even care at one point. You're just like, well, we already know the outcome here. I guess, I mean, the other thing though is that the story of him and his career, from being the best of, you know, in Source, and then going to work in his dad's mechanic shop, and then coming back and being, I think, very good in CSGO. I think obviously, how would you play your way back to the Source? Like, that would be like comparing apples and oranges if you wanted to say that he should have been just as good in CSGO. I don't think that makes sense to even say that, but he played himself to a very high level, in my opinion, in CSGO. I think I can't actually think of anyone that can lay claim to a story that is even remotely like that. I think it's so unlikely that anyone could successfully accomplish that I think it's unbelievably cool. I have a lot of respect for it. Someone should, you know, dramatize that in some way. I mean, maybe not even dramatize it. It is already dramatic, right? But just find a way to tell that story in the way that it deserves, because it actually is really rare.
Yeah. Well, so my story, right, is from the Source days, and I've always loved RPK after this, right? There was it was in Copenhagen, funnily enough, in the Erksnehalle, where you have the Copenhagen Games.
Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, in the red light district, yeah. But when it was still the red light district of Copenhagen, but it's all been gentrified now, and that's all been moved to the next street over or whatever, you know. But anyway, so we were there, and this was in a weird time where Ferry Games, there'd been a great schism, and I've drunk a lot since then, but I think the schism was like Existence took over Ferry Games, and KRL, the formerly created his own team, Nameless, which were like the only team that could beat Ferry Games, and RPK loved KRL, and so RPK, one of the greatest riflers of all time, went and played with his boy. So they went to a tournament Ferry Games weren't at. So they were like, they were like highly touted. And they ended up playing an Australian team in the group stage. And seriously, this Copenhagen Games in Source was sick. We had people from Italy and Australia and France and obviously Denmark and the Reason Gaming guys from Czech and Slovakia and all that. So anyway, the Very Games took themselves a bit too seriously, and that culture, I think, came from KRL, because this team, this nameless team, they turned up to this Copenhagen Games LAN in suits, right? And it was reminiscent of the Liverpool, like, Spice Boys era, where they were dressed in cream suits with ties. And it was a bit fucking... They looked like they were coming to a fucking wedding, you know? You feel me?
Did you say Spice Boys?
Yeah, the Spice Boys. That's what they used to call Liverpool back in the 90s. The fucking Spice Boys.
Right.
Under Roy Evans or whatever, you know, Jamie Redknapp, Robbie Fowler, all of that. Anyway, so they were wearing these suits and we were all kind of making fun of it. And there was an interview with one of the Australians before they played each other. And, and if you knew this Australian team, it had Boomzer and Tegs on it, right? Now, Boomzer and Tegs were brothers. And they were like the big breed of Australians. Just huge people, you know, like just 6'4", massive, strong. Tegs was like a kickboxer. Boomzer just loved a bar brawl on the weekends, loved to drink. And so they were doing this interview, and it was just a throwaway interview for a small fucking, you know, like website. And somebody said, hey, you've got to play Nameless next or whatever. What do you think of them wearing suits at a LAN? And Boomzer just said, listen, mate, it's better than coming to a LAN stinking of balls. That's what he said. That was his answer, right? And in other words, sort of joking and alluding to the fact, you know, they were in three-quarter shorts. I can't even remember the name of the team they were in, right? Now, RPK doesn't speak very good English. And so somehow it got back to RPK, who was nicknamed the Godfather in French Source, right? Which I always thought was just because he looked like Marlon Brando, right? It got back to him that what Boomzer had actually said is, they smell of balls. So
incredible.
Before this game, no joke, RPK went up to them, the two biggest fuckers at LAN, both of them, and he just squared up and said, smell of balls? Like, he was just saying this, like, smell of balls? Like, just, no fear, didn't give a fuck, was willing to battle to the death because he thought two Australians said him and his mate smelled of balls. And it all had to be calmed down. There was a little Italian legend there who used to play called Googly, acting as a peacemaker. It was a fucking absolute scene. And then they played the game and they battered the Australians. And it was all handshakes and beers at the end. But the fact that RPK was willing to take on, like, seriously, they were a terrifying prospect. And he was willing to fight them. Not for his honor, you understand. For the honor of all his besuited brethren.
Yeah.
I knew he was a real one right then. You know, so he's an absolute legend.
That is absolutely incredible.
So there you go. When he eventually hears about this story, nothing but love to him. Great career, great guy off the server, great guy on the server. Absolute legend. Right. Let's do it. Let's get the questions out the way, and let's see how many of these questions smell of balls. Right. So for those who don't know, if you donate to our Patreon, $50, you can ask us anything and we will answer it. And if you're on the Discord, which I think you can get to by putting ! Discord in the chat, you will know in advance if we're ever doing anything like this and we're having guests and blah, blah, blah. So do that. Right. BP420 says, what is the most cynically created modern music genre?
Fuck me. I actually, this is like a topic that I hate sometimes when people go down this route of saying there's no good music anymore. It's like, chances are you just can't find it. Like, or you're not trying, or you're just asking to, like, I agree kind of if you just turn on Spotify for like the top 20 trending, probably, yeah, that's going to be shit. I'm going to go out, I'm going to say, do you know that music when they turn the pitch up really high on some like robot woman over some like techno thing? I feel like that's sort of anime made
What
music.
genre is that, my boomer friend?
I fucking don't know, Richard. I don't know what these kids are listening to anymore. I'm just saying, I feel it's a cynical ploy to try and exploit the anime crowd into also listening to that
Nightcore,
music.
apparently.
Nightcore, that shit, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I feel like it's trying
that sounds like a gritty fucking detective show. Like, what the
It
fuck?
does.
Who's dancing to Nightcore?
Listen, I'm just saying. I think it's music trying to exploit the repressed sexual urges of like people that watch too much anime. I think it should stop. It's criminal. Kill it.
It was happy hardcore in my day. They used to call that shite. I don't know. Maybe everything's a core now. Jump core. You seen that? It's just where it has one beat where it's like bump, 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 so you can just jump to it. Big in Sweden.
Yeah,
just
well,
saying.
if you're on enough ecstasy, I'm sure.
Sorry, jump style, jump core. I don't know. I'm a boomer. I'll just edit that out and pretend I got it right. That shit's garbage anyway. That's the point. For me, I like K-pop for sure, like, but more than the music,
the industry.
Yeah, it's like an evil. It's an evil industry.
I know it is evil.
It's like pure evil, but it's the fans.
Yeah.
I hope I never hit a point in my life where I have to pretend to like something to fit in. I couldn't imagine doing that. Yet it's true of all these weird, fucked up subcultures. Like I'm supposed to believe bronies, right, are really big guys who like fucking My Little Pony. No, you don't. You're just a desperate loser who can't actually, you're not socially adequate enough to meet real people. So you pretend you like this shit because you'll meet social misfits like you and you won't feel so alone in the world. That's all it is. That's all it ever was. And so it is with these K-pop stands on Twitter. But the problem is, at least with bronies, you just go, well, he's just a miserable. He just smells the balls, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's not, he can't. Yeah, exactly. He has to imagine sex with a cartoon anthropomized pony, doesn't he? But K-pop is worse because they have such influence and status over social media spaces. So, but there's so many people who like K-pop or like K-pop that don't really like K-pop. And that's the worst part about it. The fact that it has such a despicable fandom. And the music is by and large like indistinguishable. If you were to play me 10 K-pop songs by different bands and sort of go, which one is the style of this? Which one is the style of that? Nah. Outside one or two maybe. And
presumably most of them can't actually speak Korean either and have no idea what's actually going on.
Oh, and that's the other thing. What are they called again, Sam? We looked this up before. You have weeaboos. Is it Koreaboos they're called?
I don't know. I can't remember that.
Was it Koreaboos? You had weeboos for Japan and Koreaboos for that. Yeah, but anyway, that music is garbage. The fans of that music are garbage. At least if you're Korean, sound.
Yeah, maybe you have some cultural, ties.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's your pop music, so it totally makes sense. But if you're somebody that doesn't speak a word of Korean and you're going, I love BTS, me, they're just so amazing. Look at them. I bought the BTS happy. Like, I don't know how you're comfortable doing this performance publicly. It's a lie to fit in with other losers that are telling the same lie. Stop it. Just stop. And it'll all be okay. You can go, there are plenty of other things that you can be interested in. So yeah, there you go.
So we've attacked Simple and the K-pop fans. It's going to be a good episode. Lots of messages.
It's all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dub my answers over your mouth. So,
classic.
And I'll edit a bit in at the end, going, I don't know why Anders hates his family.
Yeah.
Saying all these things, putting them at risk with his opinions.
Bacon
says, if you had to choose, which one would you prefer? MR12 with today's round times, or MR15 but with 15 seconds less on the round time?
Oh, fuck me. The problem that I have with MR12, I understand the logic of the question, is that I worry that I actually want for teams to have some mid-round, like in the middle of a half, where they can, I want someone to be able to lose the first 5 or 6 rounds, but then for losing the rounds, the negative is you lose the rounds, but the positive is you find something out that you can then exploit to win maybe not all the remaining rounds, but some of them. I like that dynamic in the game that you can sort of like, oh, they have a weakness here, or I've realized they do like a certain thing or whatever. And I feel like if you put it MR12, there will be less of that. I agree that the games are very long and that's a problem. I think you could easily do the like MR15 and reduced round time and lose almost nothing as far as I can tell. So
yeah, I mean, look, I think we've just got a broader problem. I think sure you can change the round times. I think the issues are fundamentally in the economic balance of the game. Currently, I still wish pistol rounds didn't exist. I felt that for years. But I also think the gun balance is fucking trash right now, frankly. Yeah, there's too many. Like the Deagle is just a massive problem.
yeah, it does everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. Like, it's obviously very engineered to have this. Everyone is kind of always in the game feel. I think the problem here is that we're talking about this assuming that all of Counter-Strike is the esports portion, and it's just not. So if I had to take on a different hat, if you made me the product manager of Counter-Strike at Valve and you said, hey, we have 15 to 20 million people playing this every month, you want them, your main focus is for them to have a good experience. How can you do that? Maybe I would try and make it so that the UMP and the MP9 and the P90 and blah blah, like, all are reasonably functional, so that no one ever buys a gun that doesn't do something right. And I always want people to have an economy that's kind of workable. Like, I don't want that hard reset that people normally had when, they win around and lose around. We all remember that, right? As like, now you're really fucked. But from an actual story building in the game kind of thing, like, the hype was incredible when someone did that, and now you knew that, like, yeah, they might be far ahead, but they actually could be in a lot of trouble. I kind of enjoyed all that. So, but that's with the esports hat on, right? So I don't know how to argue that. But I do.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But it's like, listen, I don't really care about. I know this sounds awful. I think build a good game, and people will play that game, want to get good at the game, and an esport will happen. Sort of de facto. But equally, I don't care about balancing as it affects a pleb. I don't care. It doesn't interest me. I don't even play the game anymore. It's like, what I want to know is, what happens when pros sit down and come up with the optimal strategies every time. And if on CT, the optimal strategy is to never engage in a 3-on-5 and to save your guns every round, I don't like what CS has become, because we've lost so many epic moments.
Yeah.
If it is, hey, let's just buy a Deagle every time we're on low money, I don't like what CS has become, because that's where we got to in Source, where the Deagle was like a fucking laser beam rocket. And you didn't do ecos anymore. You didn't manage your money. If you didn't have money to buy guns, you bought a Deagle. Fuck it. And we're there in CS:GO, and Valve for me has ignored fundamental issues. Not to mention CT side utility. You've got to take a look at that then. If you're not going to change the cost of the guns and you're not going to change the gun balance, can the CTs just have like a Molotov that doesn't cost whatever the fuck it is for them, 600 or whatever? Like, there's got to be something. You have to change something, because the game right now sucks. It's the most boring it's been for a long time.
Someone, I was in a meeting yesterday about something completely different from all of this, but someone brought up something that I keep forgetting, which is that in 1.6 you actually had to buy ammunition for the guns and that allowed you to actually make economic choices, right? You could buy a Deagle and then only have 14 spare bullets, because the logic being, if I don't hit someone, I'm probably dead anyway, so I'll save $50, and if I keep doing, like, I realize that does make things more granular and maybe like a little bit more geeky, but I kind of actually like that. I actually kind of like the idea that you could try and optimize the game to that level, and that the economy actually mattered that much. I feel like something has got skewed walking the other direction. But again, part of me can put on that like CS:GO product manager hat and see why they're doing it. I'm on your side. I want them to build the best game, and also like what works in an esports, way, and then people will come and play it.
You play Dota now, right? And so you understand that how they balance
I
the
do.
game, and I know you, God help you, how they balance the game in certain areas, right? Is like, for example, no one was buying wards, right? No one would buy observer wards. So they
Yeah.
approached it from a perspective of, well, no one's buying them because they're expensive. There's a gold cost. No one wants to have them dip into their finances because then you can't buy items. So we'll make them free, but we'll time how many you can have. And so
Yeah.
they thought the problem out that way. And this was designed not just for game balance, right? Because actually it makes the game easier. It's like exactly what League of Legends did with a sight stone when people weren't buying wards. It's actually an example of Valve taking something a little bit from League.
True.
But the reality is anyone could get a ward. It's not a detriment anymore. It doesn't impact on the game. So why not? They don't approach balance in CS in the same way. It's like why not give at least one free diffuse kit for the CTs every round, and you could buy additional ones if you want, but you always have at least one. Because I've seen so many rounds where CTs are on a half buy, a dog buy. They fucking do enough to get the kills, but there's just not enough time to defuse the bomb because they don't have a kit. And so, at the end of the day, I'm like, just at least they've been so creative in how they've rebalanced Dota, and they've just let CS go stagnate, and it's just ridiculous.
I mean, another crazy thing for me, because I mean, I played Dota and Warcraft 3, and I played Heroes of New Earth and all that shit, so I kind of understand how the games function. When I started playing it now, like a couple of months ago, the fact that when you can alt click to see the timings on pulls and stacks, you can even alt click to see the way you can position like the most common ward positions, and it's just incredible the amount of helping hands you're given to sort of. I mean, even if you're a brand new player and you knew none of this, it's actually crazy how much the game would try and push you in a direction to become a more reasonable player as quick as you could, right? Whereas all of this was obviously obscure in the past. Like, if you didn't know the timings of a stack, then you were just screwed. And you wouldn't be stacking anything, and you would just be a worse player by a lot.
You don't know your lineups for your smokes and your flashes. Go fuck yourself, right?
I even thought about that. Like, what if you approached it the same way and you sort of said, well, no, I mean, obviously you can throw smokes from anywhere, so we can't plaster the whole map with bounds. But theoretically, could you make it so that you say, yeah, if you want to do the Mirage mid-window smoke, aim here, run here, like, there's a green marker that says you're running the right speed, throw the nade, like, whatever it is, like, with that, it's hard for me to know if that would, screw everything up, or if because Counter-Strike still, it's not like the height of that skill is in throwing the smokes, right? Like it's in something else. Like if you had to, this is part of the same meeting from yesterday. If I had to go through something and say, what are all the things that I have to keep? If I could only keep 4 things in Counter-Strike, right? Something like how the gun mechanics work and how that gunplay is more important than lining up smokes in a way. So I don't know. I do agree. I think the ultimate problem, I don't know how to solve this though, but I would love to be able to make to Valve the argument that you're making. I think you and I agree on this, that actually the esports tip of the spear of Counter-Strike is way more important than maybe Valve realize. That the 15 to 12 million people, fine, they're the customers. I completely respect that. That's a business. Keep that intact. Try and do what you can to make sure that they're feeling happy. But the long term, like the long tail of this is the esports side of it. Like that's the thing that's going to make it so that we get to 30 and 40 and 50 years of Counter-Strike or whatever, right?
And I think they have a broader problem in the sense that I don't think Valve make particularly great single player games in terms of what the single player experience has devolved to in both Dota and CS. Like over time,
that may be true.
Yeah, I think if you're not playing in a 5-stack, I think it's unbearable.
I was about to go wild on Half-Life Alyx front because that's the best game I've ever played. So, but fair enough.
I haven't played that yet. I ain't done no VR. I don't even know if it'll work with my eyes. I'll have to look into that because I can't do them 3D Escher things.
That's going to be fine. Trust me, it'll be 100% worth it. Alyx is a fucking wild game. Should have won Game of the Year. It didn't because it got pushed into the VR category by cowardly, stupid people.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, surely the incredible, compelling story of The Last of Us 2 was worthy of...
No.
Anyway, Echo asks, next question. Echo asks, For Anders only, because I've already answered this.
Fuck.
Which dinosaur was the best dinosaur?
Oh, the best. We're gonna have to define best. Now, I have a 6-year-old that's heavily into dinosaurs, and I've played a lot of
Wait.
Ark.
Is he 6?
6.5. He started school, Richard. He's in school. It's fucked up. Yeah. So
Christ, I remember when he was like fucking all the way down there, man. It's fucking
Yeah.
6. Fucking hell.
So he's learning English. He's in like grade 0 and he's learning English.
He might be able to understand what the fuck I'm jabbering about next time I see him. Then Who
So
knows?
I've always been real suspicious whenever he's been around Thorin, but obviously now, if
Yeah.
they can.
Well, you know what
communicate-
Thorin's like as well. He's always like, "Now listen, just
Yeah.
remember, your dad is a fucking piece of shit." Yeah,
exactly like that. I'll just let me send you some links of what Daddy used to say like that.
Keep hold of these.
Yeah, I have to be real careful. Now, he's into the Raptors, right? Because they have like the most immediate
Yeah.
appeal. T-Rex is cool, but it's got the silly clown arms thing going. It's
True.
hard to take it seriously. I think the Spinosaur is gonna rate pretty high up there. Huge creature. Like obviously like water, like close to the water, could be really fast in there. It's got like that giant like fin, whatever it is on its back. I think it's horrifying. I think a Spinosaur could be pretty high up there. But yeah, maybe Ankylosaur with the like that could break your knees, presumably break your whole body, but certainly
Yeah.
knees as well.
Not
But
Sam.
Yeah,
Sam would win in a fight.
Sam would win in a fight against an
Yeah, he
Ankylosaur.
always. There's no animal alive. Sam
Wasn't he
can't
trying to
take.
fight a
Yeah, that's
gorilla
not
at some
alive, to
point?
be fair.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I
So-
denied the gorilla fight. I would lose to a gorilla. They were trying to push me into a gorilla fight, man. I don't think I
I
beat
was
every
trying to push him
animal.
into a gorilla fight. Yeah, I was on the phone. To like Bellator.
Man, they'd buy it.
Like, listen, do you want a Welsh stoner to fight a gorilla on your show? And they were like, all right, yeah, it's probably better than half the shit
We'll
we've
have to do
actually
it on
got
a
going
boat
on right
in the
now.
middle of the ocean, like, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
International waters, cool.
Right. Carv's question. As a respected local businessman and sociopath from the Stockholm area, I take offence at the narrative that the task force we've assembled is doing absolutely everything in their power to bring the CSGO major to Stockholm. I myself visited the NIP offices recently with our Minister for Cultural Appropriation, Amanda Lind, and can vouch firsthand at the great work the NIP org is doing behind the scenes. It's a wonderful organisation, and their facility reflects the true values of Sweden, with a newly built learning and re-education centre, constructed from the funds on a recent partnership deal, an electronic visitor registration system so player partners and loved ones can get permission to enter, and a microchip payment system for the cafeteria where all the players and management share a communal PayPal fund. In fact, that's a bit of a raw one, isn't it? And in fact, the only thing that slightly annoyed me was the music in the background. It seemed to be the one song over and over, and by the 8th play of the ubiquitous 1993 classic Go West by the Pet Shop Boys, it started to grate on my nerves, even if it was being used as a motivational tool for their recently acquired star player. Is there any chance of an apology before I meet up with Hitchum next week for the quarterly NIP management team retreat to Thailand?
Jesus Christ.
It's Carv's question. We just don't respond to them. We just let them sit there.
Can I have to believe this is the same person that came up with the Nikolai Nyholm conspiracy. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Probably did. Zumba says, which dog breed is best?
We keep going on with this best thing. You guys have to define best by what characteristic.
I think we all know what dogs are best. Because you've got a pug, right?
I have a pug. She's they have a lot of personality, but in terms of if you define best as in survival, they can hardly do that.
Why are you encouraging the long-term existence? But I've talked about this with Dankula as well. I just don't understand it. It's like, this probably sounds a bit cruel, but they're not having a good time.
Well, it's true. Listen, so this is I'll cop to this. The first pug that we had, we actually just bought off like a random. We didn't know anything about the breeding problems or anything. We bought off a random person, and she was incredible, but she was definitely horribly misbred, and like her breeding was really bad. Now the next one we got, we actually looked up because there's a movement within the pug world. I know I'm going to sound like a crazy person.
You're such a boomer.
I know.
Yeah, you're on Facebook in a pug breeding fucking group. Like, oh my God. Go on anyway, educate me.
We're knitting little outfits for them, and basically, there is a movement to try and breed them, back the other way. Yes, because they like people.
What you're talking about? Build back better, but for pugs.
Exactly, the new world order, but for pugs instead.
How's that gonna work?
Well, so the main problems that they have is obviously their skull is all fucked up, their noses are too short so they can't breathe. The other problem they have is people want their tails to be like really curly, and it actually curls their spine, so they get these incredible spinal problems, which is not fun at all, right? So they're trying to sort of like reverse all of that and make it like a more like a dog that just is healthier, basically. So that's
what if it goes wrong?
How wrong can it go? Like things are already fucked up.
Yeah, true. How are you gonna breed the skulls back normal? How's that happening? Can't they just research an operation?
No, it's actually already working. What they're also doing is that breeding have bigger nostrils, because that's the other problem with the breeding.
Yeah,
and
mate.
That's already working.
My mate had a pug too. That fucker, like I used to say it with, like, mate, if you ever caught me breathing like that in my sleep, you better wake me the fuck up. Don't leave me like that. And he's going, oh, no, that's just normal. That's just how it sounds. Like he's like,
I would
fucking sort it. Roll it on its side, mate. Fucking hell.
I love pugs, but that's just like a thing. But I think it's hard to go wrong with a golden retriever. I've never seen one that wasn't happy. They're always in a good mood. It's fucking crazy.
Huskies for me.
Huskies? Oh, but but you have time to have a husky, do you, Richard? Like, it's
a husky would be the death of me, mate.
Yeah,
because they're so energetic and they fucking let you know, like, I need to go out and do shit. Like, I don't know about you, mate. If you thought you were going to sit around in your fucking filth all day,
and they're loud.
Newsflash.
They yell and shit in the middle of the night. It's wild.
Yeah, but I love them. They're really intelligent, high functioning, energetic dogs. They're the ones I like. Davey always says, like, because he's got a husky, like, fucking, he totally vouches for them. I like them Samoyeds.
Yep,
as well.
They're
big,
very cool.
Derpy bundles of fluff.
The only thing with them is because I've known a couple of them. They are unbelievably social animals, and that's obviously awesome. But it can be real hard to have one that you leave alone. That you can like go to work and then it's just on its own for like 6 or 7 hours or something. Like they're really, really social creatures. But they are really cool.
We used to as well, my mate, because he used to take dogs in that had been difficult dogs. He was a good dog owner, and where we lived there was a dog track, and obviously people, once a whippet can't win a race, once a ground can't win a race, they just want to be done with them. Fortunately, a lot of them do just get fucking killed on the quiet and buried. And they're such wonderful dogs. They're really timid, really gentle, but full of life and fun when they're treated right and looked after. So,
I realize this probably isn't a topic that we're meant to go too much into, but I've linked you a Google search for a Danish dog breed.
I've seen these.
My family always used to have. I guess they.
But these are the old school hunting dogs, aren't they?
The cool thing about they're not bred for that. They're bred for essentially for laying in front of a fire in a Danish castle somewhere. So they're actually kind of a little bit lazy. But they are really cool dogs. They kind of look like a giant mastiff that's just more brown than a regular mastiff. But they're really awesome. I don't know if people ever. I'll link it in the chat if I can.
Everyone needs a Brohomer.
Exactly. They're cool dogs.
Yeah. All right, there we go. We've thoroughly explored the dog question.
Exactly.
Right, let's jump on. There's only 3 more, and then you can get back to a normal life. Or a vaguely one. Reykjavik asks, if Fortnite put in $100 million into their esports program, like they promised, where did that money go, and why is it definitely not Tencent? So Fortnite's owned by Epic, and obviously Epic is Tencent own a piece of that. But yeah, I mean, the Fortnite as an esport concept was staggering to me because I remember when they pledged $100 million to it, and it turns out esports is such a shit garbage business populated by shills and liars. You don't even have to actually pony up the money. You just have to say you will, and you'll get all the headlines and all the publicity as if you did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a few Fortnite events, Sanders. So you know,
can I be honest? Whenever I'm on Instagram, scrolling, wasting my life,
posting your gym pics.
Oh yeah, that's basically it.
Only fans win.
Exactly, just a matter of time, really. I get sometimes from the FaZe account, probably. I'll get like a compilation of Fortnite sort of highlights. And that's the moment when I really feel old. Like I feel like an unbelievable boomer. I have no idea what the fuck is happening on my screen. I'm just seeing like stuff flickering in front and and then suddenly there's like a rocket and someone dies. I'm like, what is going on?
There's an example, by the way, of a game that was built without any esports forethought. Because what they didn't account for, like I think building wasn't meant to be the thing that you do. I don't think they envisioned that a fight to win a match of Fortnite will boil down to two people spamming buttons as quick as they can to build like Insta towers that they're trying to shoot through it while also building their own Insta tower until somebody either runs out of resources or gets the shot or does it faster than the other. I don't think it was ever meant to look like how it looks. It's because it's more, you know, it's become so horrific to look at on screen. Whereas if it was cartoons running around in fun skins shooting each other, it'd translate a lot better to the general public.
Since we're in the last questions, can I hijack this because you mentioned Epic and Fortnite and Tencent?
Yes, the dream.
Exactly. I don't know how much this topic has been discussed, but if I can make it real serious for a second, there is this weird looming fight out there that I really, maybe you can tell me about it sometime, Richard, or maybe someone else smarter than me can tell me what's happening here. But the most interesting about Epic to me is not the fact that Tencent might own some of it. They own some of everything, so who cares in some sense. But it's the fact that they own the Unreal Engine. And it's the fact that the other player in this space is the Unity project for building games. And it's the fact that somewhere out there, not on an engine that's publicized in the same way, is Valve with their Source or Source 2 thing. But it's not made for random people to go and make games on in the same. It's not as open in the same way that Unreal. And obviously, I don't know if people have looked at the Unreal 5 shit, but it is I just can't believe what I'm seeing. It is so crazy from like every single perspective. Now, as far as I can tell, the fight is like all of the battle lines are being drawn right now for game engines, for VR. But the one thing that people don't seem to think about is the Steam market. Someone has to take the fight, and I bet Epic will. And Microsoft are out there too, angling. I bet you Amazon is as well. Like, there's going to be some sort of mega fight happening on this front. It has to happen because Steam is just such a ridiculous market player. And there's no way they can accept it. And if you think, that is why I thought about it. If you think Epic spending $100 million on Fortnite esports is some kind of money, it is not. They don't give a fuck about that. Compared to what you would bring to the fight against Steam, I guarantee you it's going to be absolutely apocalyptic. And I kind of looking forward to it.
Did you see the lawsuit papers that came out from the Apple thing?
Yes. Yep.
I forget the numbers, but they said they've lost like billions. And they're like, we don't even expect to even turn the corner towards potential profitability until 2027. And that's for the Epic store, you know? And it's like, well... yeah, I mean, that's the only way you can take on Steam.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that. But think about how crazy it is if you... Now, I don't know how easy this would be to do, but I don't know everything about this. But my suspicion is that Unity is about to, unless something wild happens, about a hardcore lose the fight for game creation by random people. And Unreal 5 is going to be favored by a lot of fucking people. And there are a bunch of reasons, like technical reasons for that, I think. But if that happens, what if they just change all of the clauses or just even incentivize people to publish on the Epic Store instead? so that all of the games that you know and love that are being made in indie world and all the rest of it, if they just all, you say like, you know, maybe you have to pay some money to Epic if you don't post it on the Epic store, but if you do, you can do it for free. Like whatever the case may be, right? All I'm saying is that's an interesting topic for someone to dive down into, because I still think that, you know, as much as we, because everyone is real focused on like Twitch versus YouTube and blah blah blah, like streaming platforms. Like, I think this fight is actually in a lot of ways way more interesting. Anyway,
yeah,
just
no,
throwing it out there.
Well, listen, eventually, Anders, when CS is dead, that'll be when me and you will have to we'll just become game reviewers.
We are actually full horseshoe theory into being esports consultants.
Oh, dude,
I've
done esports consultancy.
There we go.
You know, I've already plumbed those depths. But yeah, maybe. But no, I think that's a good point. I mean, look, I think you're right. I think the amount of, like, eventually, the only thing that really worries me about this whole fight that's coming is I sort of just don't want Tencent to win. I can't.
Will they though?
Conscience. Well, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. I also don't think they understand concepts such as defeat.
I don't know everything about this, but are they not also facing some trouble back in China?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it trouble. Basically, what's happened is the Chinese government's done what it does to all its big businesses on a long enough timescale. It's jacked their loot for itself. It's almost as if there was some kind of, I don't know, ideology that allowed them to do this in the name of redistribution.
Yes.
But yeah, crazy. I just can't put my finger on it. But they've done it. And you know, basically what happened, for example, with Tencent was they made them commit like another like 7.7 billion towards social programs, and that's that. There's nothing they can do if you don't acquiesce to the CCP. You're fucked.
Yeah.
And so Tencent came out and went, of course, we're happy to help the Chinese government and do all these incredible social programs. But, you know, the reality is, are the people going to see that money, or is it going to go into the government? It's going to disappear into a black hole. Who fucking knows what it's actually going to be used for? And so one of the problems, it was actually quite funny. The George Soros Foundation, I know Sam's like, abort. No, don't worry. It's all good. The George Soros Foundation put a tweet out that linked to an article where it was saying this is a good point, and what it was talking about when Americans are doing all of this business in China, it's always done in the good faith assumption that the Chinese government will let you keep the assets you own. But remember, to get into the Chinese market in the first place, you have to partner with a Chinese business. You don't do that. You don't agree to that. You don't do business in China. And then at any point, the laws and stipulations you agree to is the government can essentially turn around and just hit you with a one-off fee, a one-off tax. And if you're not willing to participate and give them that, if you're not willing to say, okay, this is the cost of doing business, then you're fucked, and they drum you out of town, and you will not be welcome back, because these people don't forget. So this is the issue I have. I know Tencent and the government appear to be at loggerheads just on the fact that they've negatively impacted their share price with these laws about, you know, limiting under 18s to play games and other, you know, let's say crackdowns that they've had. And also they have just absolutely wrecked them by taking 7.7 billion and saying, we're going to put that into social programs. You do the PR spin, but it's happening. But the reality is Tencent are going to go along with it every time, because what's the alternative? And so the reality is, somewhere down the line, back when Tencent aren't having that happen to them and they're a powerhouse again, do remember that Tencent and the Chinese government are in cahoots. Do remember as well that any Chinese business has a legal obligation to comply when it comes to the distribution of data to the Chinese government. That's how they found all these Hong Kong protesters. You know, a Dutch hacker already exposed that Tencent had worked with the Chinese government in getting political dissidents and undesirables. That spreading and proliferating into the Western market, no fucking thanks. No thanks. So
yeah, that's rough. But I guess that's also partly my point, right? Is that I wonder if that will make it harder for them to compete but I mean, I guess if they already own part of the companies, maybe that's a win automatically, but maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Right, last couple. Fursock asks, of all the fiction and non-fiction books and or series you've read, what is your favorite from the pool you would personally classify as high literature?
Oh, I would never call it high literature. I just feel
Right.
like that is, I don't know, that's making it too pretentious for my taste. But I think in the non-fiction part, Christopher Hitchens wrote a book called Letters to a Young Contrarian, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. Now, I was part of this whole atheism run for a while, which got really boring really quickly.
You did own a fedora, I remember.
Yeah, all of that shit. Actually, it was so freaky because I was into that shit like at least a year before it really hit the internet. I know that's gonna make me sound like a little hipster or something, but what all that it did for me was when it hit the internet, it made me realize, fuck, I'm one of these people. Like I'm actually just so I had to escape that shit. But that book is still very cool, very worth it. It's super short, really worth reading. So definitely that one. Actually, and I just to strike a point for is in the non-fiction part of things for Richard Dawkins. He wrote a book called
The cancelled Richard Dawkins.
Much cancelled, yeah. He wrote a book called The Ancestor's Tale, which is a really beautiful book. You're going to read if you ever want to know about the lineage back to the dinosaurs, back to the Spinosaurs and all the rest of it. The lineage of like all of life. It's really awesome. Really good book. Also an audiobook if you want it. Now, on the fiction side, I have an endless fascination with The Thing, which in book form is called Who Goes There?
Yes.
I think that universe is. I don't want them to make more versions of it because I don't think that's necessary. But I think the idea that underlies what that is, it is shocking to me that more people have not tried to like dig into that well because I just think it's been explored so badly. Can we put spoilers on part of the book? Can I reveal part of it?
Jump in.
Okay.
Fuck the audience.
Fuck yeah. I should have put this in petty grievances. I fucking hate spoiler culture.
Yeah,
Stay
same.
off the internet if you don't want to know things.
Yeah,
just
of course.
go away.
Oh, what are they saying about the thing I don't want to know about?
Yeah, I know. Just
spoilers. Shut the fuck up.
Turn off your phone or whatever. Just go away. Now there is. I'm assuming people understand the basic premise. If you don't, then it doesn't really matter. But at some point in the middle of all of the chaos, they are not sure who is infected or who's not. So they're starting to the people that they suspect that have been alone that could have turned into the thing without anyone else knowing. They put those people away in separate rooms. They try and isolate them. All makes sense. And one of the people in the book, they have this whole description where he is, and they put on a movie and they're up in the North Pole, obviously freezing their asses off, and they're trying to watch a movie to like try and get some morale up and running. And this guy is in an isolation room and he is just howling and crying and for hours begging them through the wall to be let out. He can't stand being alone. He's getting claustrophobic. He just can't handle it. And he's reciting verses from the Bible because he's so like he's just torn apart. And then it turns out later he was the thing. And that to me is so horrifying. The idea that not just that it could sort of look and act a little bit like you, because that's actually what you get a little bit from but in the book you get the sense that it knows everything about you. Like once it's taken over you, it's you in like down to like the soul level. It's so horrifying, but also amazing. So
yeah, it's a great short story, and obviously The Thing is a great movie. But I agree, like there's little aspects of it that get left out. It's like same with like Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson, obviously, his book I Am Legend. I don't think there's ever been a truly good adaptation of that book, and there's been fucking plenty of them. The Omega Man. There was Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price. Obviously, the I Am Legend with Will Smith that everybody knows. It's just one of those books where it's like, I don't know, you can't quite get it right. We're about to see that again with Dune. I was just talking about that on the Discord the other day, that unfortunately Dune cannot be made into a perfect movie because it's so story rich and so dense. It will always fall short of the book. It'll be an amazing movie, but it will fall short in an adaptation.
Would it be better if it was like a 10-season series kind of thing? Would that make it better? Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. I said if you could get that cast, which is one of the best ensemble casts I've seen this century, to commit to doing a TV show, I think, you're going to nail it. But it's like you need to establish so much before you even meet who Paul is. Like, what's the Butlerian jihad? What's What type? Why have we moved towards having biological machines and humans have to take drugs? Why is the Space Federation's guild operating in the way it is? What is the why have we devolved back to feudalism? Why is it great houses? The Harkonnens and the Atreides have like millennia long blood feuds. Why? And you have to know all of that. And there's just no way to set the book up adequately, in my opinion, by the time Paul comes around in the first Dune book. And unfortunately, the problem it also has as well is the books aren't even truly appreciated for what they are, because people read the first one, they go, wow, that's wicked. It's like Space Jesus, the Wonder Years. And they think they're going to read the next book, Dune Messiah, and it's going to be more of the same. And then you realize Paul Atreides is a fucking abject failure and a cunt, and he's fucked up all of humanity because of his humanity, because of the fact he is ultimately human, despite being the Kwisatz Haderach. And so, yeah, it's one of those books that's just, you cannot tell it in 3 hours. It cannot be done. Not even just the first book. So
yeah, I feel like that's like an issue, isn't it? Like if you want to do a movie, right, you have to choose. You can either choose to do a movie about interesting characters, but then you don't really get to tell much story, or you get to tell a really interesting story with very limited characters. But that's it, right? You don't have the luxury of doing both, really.
And as I tell anyone that I get a chance to tell, if you want some real high literature that'll fucking blow your mind, Thomas Metzinger, the probably the greatest living philosopher right now, he does philosophy of the mind, cognitive science, and neuro philosophy. And his 2 books, The Ego Tunnel and Being No One, the self-model theory of subjectivity. I've read them both, and they say that, like, it went, put it this way, this is the written equivalent of doing DMT.
Awesome. Oh shit! I need to add another book that I actually now, because you brought up DMT, I have to mention True Hallucination.
We were never going to get to the end without DMT.
Of course, by Terence McKenna. Hilarious book. I was laughing through a lot of it, but also like an amazing book. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're ever in the mood for something strange, go read that.
Yeah. Last question. And it is, of course, from the legend Jerky's Minion. What is your favorite Omar Little quote? Rest in peace to the great Michael K. Williams. And yeah, obviously, I don't get bummed out by celebrity deaths as a rule. But occasionally there's one that hits you right in the fucking nuts. And, Philip Seymour Hoffman was one. And it's not because, it's not like I feel attached to them in an unhealthy way. It's just you are left wondering what work would they have done had they just got a little bit more time. And as I can't lament the person dying because I don't know them, but the impact their work has had on my life, I can gauge that, and I can also gauge the quality of it, and I can gauge any appreciable improvement. When people get cut off before doing something, you always think, what would have happened if they just lived a bit longer, like with musicians. Like, what would fucking Jimi Hendrix be doing, if he just had, if he didn't die at fucking 27,
I know.
So my favorite quote, I don't know, I think it's not particularly profound, but it's just, man's got to have a code.
True.
Because it's the one that goes right to the heart of essentially what The Wire is about. If you want to summarize the entirety of The Wire in one sentence, it's the fact that the police don't have a code. They're cooking the stats. The politicians don't have a code. They just want votes. There is kind of a moral grounding in the fact that exactly what Omar's about, and he won't break that code for anyone. It's not as simple as I don't snitch. You brutalize my boyfriend, I'll happily snitch on you because it's all in the game.
Yeah, and what is he like? I think at the same part of the show, right? There's a part where he outlines something like, if he was going to hit someone, if he was going to, assassinate someone, essentially, he'd do it clean, no taxpayers getting caught up in the mix.
Yeah.
Like he understood the rules of the game so cleanly, right? Which I think is part of what made him such a lovable character. There's another part that I love where this is actually not really an Omar quote, but it's McNulty that says, anybody coming after Omar is going to know Omar's coming after them. Like, there's something incredible about that line. I mean, obviously, there's the whole, come after the king, you best know. That's like probably the most quoted one. I think the I got the shotgun, you got the briefcase scene is unreal.
Great one.
It's so funny, right? Yeah, I mean, there's an almost endless amount. I think that show's amazing for just so many reasons. And here's the thing, though, as well. It's one of those shows because they managed to put openly gay characters into the show in the most believable, cool way imaginable. Like I feel like we regressed after that in terms of even that aspect of it, and not just Omar, right? But it I rewatched that show more times than I want to admit, but a lot.
Yeah, I mean, people. His body of work is ridiculous. Obviously, everyone's gonna remember The Wire. I think Chalky White and Boardwalk Empire. I mean, fuck, man. Especially in the later seasons, him and the actor who played Richard Harrow were basically propping it up. I mean, they stole every scene they were in. When they had a story arc together, it was some of the best acting I think we'd seen committed to the screen since The Sopranos. Just in terms of just great character acting. But he also starred in a bunch of other stuff. He was in that The Night Of, if you've ever seen that. He was a recurring character in that. I'm trying to think, man. I ain't doing him justice here at all. But he was like deep character arcs, across TV. He had it nailed,
And the sad thing is, right, we don't have too many characters like that at all, which is what makes it more upsetting, there aren't enough of those around. So
until America get on top of this fucking, poison drug problem, the sad, the two people I'm talking about have both died.
Is it confirmed that that's what happened?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I mean, you have to wait until there's an official, but I mean,
good guess.
People have already said that. Of course, 50 Cent being an absolute cunt, fucking put out an Instagram post saying, "Rip to a real one. That fentanyl's no joke. Watch my new TV show," or whatever it was, to find out more about that. And then plugged a fucking brand of brandy on his rest in peace post. It was one of the most tasteless sort of celebrity tributes I've ever seen. It had about 50 hashtags.
2021.
Yeah, it was cognac. It was,
yeah.
So, but yeah, we lost a great actor, and look, at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit here and cry about it like I knew the guy. Like I've seen actually some people do on stream, weird, but his work is amazing. I'm glad, in the little span of human existence, I got to see him do his thing for sure.
Yeah.
So there we are. That's the show. Anders is good sport. He stuck around. We nearly did a fucking 3-hour show or something stupid. It was meant to be a short one.
Shit.
Awesome. Yeah, but it's great. So there you have it, guys. That is Anders standing in for Thorin. That's by the numbers. So first, obviously, a shout out to the sponsors. Love those guys for giving us money. Thank you, but not just giving us money. We don't just use sponsors that give us money. We use sponsors that pass savings and benefits and bonuses on to all of you guys. So obviously NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Get yourself 70% off. A great VPN product. Steel Series gear. Again, it's no bullshit, no cap. I'm using all their stuff. It's fucking wicked. Honored to have them as a sponsor. They're a legit company. So, yep, you can click on the ! Steel Series in the Nightbot. Check out the panel. Follow that link. Use my name without a space, Richard Lewis. You get 10% off anything in the store. And by the way, watch this space, because in a few days, we've got announcements galore coming on that front. And, of course, our patrons. Jerky's Minion. These are $100 patrons. Jerky's Minion, Chris, Benakagi, Carv, Cathal, J-Dubs, Marcus Kiumpar, Tobias Bernasconi, Will the Weed Wrangler, Our $50 patrons. I know you're loving these names. Adam
Brilliant.
Ox, Alex C, Earrammer. See if you can have a guess what his name is before we trimmed it down, Anders. BP420, also his. Bacon, Can of Pasito, CMAC 1991, Dancer Master, Echo, Fursock, Franquito, Goody Woody, Gerhan Kaya, J-Ray, Judas, your boy, Miss Alcoholic, Nolan, Otarian, Petty Grievances, Reykjavik Onstein, Sard Sawar, Dapper Drek, BTC Cash Podcast. That's a new one, Sam. Fucking hell. It's time for the crypto podcast. Let's do it. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. That's going to be all I'm saying. Tim Frost. Oh, cheers for the $50 though. BTC Cash Podcast. Lonnie, Watch Doge, Zumba, and Zarathenia. That was by the numbers. I've just seen what you typed. We're going to go. Have fun. Bye. See you next time with maybe Thorin. Toodles.